This ain't over. The main character's about to tear this pathetic world a new one. She's done with the BS. Tina, the Sidus family's maid, yanked open the blackout curtains, letting the morning sun flood the room. She asked how her mistress was feeling, all smiles, but you could hear the worry in her voice. The little girl woke up, rubbing her eye, totally not wanting to get out of bed. She chuckled and said that even though she hadn't eaten yet, she already felt nauseous from hunger and weakness. Not that it was anything new, though. This was pretty much the same song and dance, day in, day out. The maid tried to force a smile, trying to hide how sad and worried she was about her mistress. The main character told Tina she was fine, even though she was anything but. The maid told her mistress she'd grab some water to wash up with and help her feel better. Stat. Miena Sidus, the terminally ill daughter of the Sidus family, didn't even know how things got this bad. She was terrified. Okay, so basically the main character finds herself in this new world that completely flips her whole perspective. It wasn't just a body swap. This girl went through a full-on rebirth, a chance to ditch all her old baggage. She died of some disease in her past life, and now her soul's searching for peace in this new body. But no luck. The girl's mom was sobbing her eyes out because the doctors kept saying her kid was about to turn a corner, but hope was fading fast. Even modern medicine was useless in the main character's case. Nobody had a clue how to help her. The girl was constantly getting blood tests and CT scans, but the results were always the same. Bad news. The doctors couldn't figure out what disease was hitting this little kid. They tried everything, but no clear answer. Tons of people offered to help, but nobody knew the right way to treat this thing. They were all just con artists, bleeding the poor family dry, scamming them left and right. The girl's health kept getting worse and worse every day, and at 20 years old, she breathed her last. Next thing the main character knew, she woke up in a new body, feeling totally out of it. Right away, she saw her parents, who were over the moon about their first kid being born. The main character ended up in another world, where everything felt brand new and totally foreign to her. The girl's life suddenly popped with color. She felt like she could start completely fresh. Miena Sidus decided to ditch the past and enjoy the present as much as she possibly could. But hold up, her health kept getting worse, and hope was fading fast, leaving her parents totally desperate. The doctor said, unfortunately, Lady Miena probably wouldn't make it through the spring, which freaked everyone out. When she was 5, the girl got sick again, like it was just her destiny or something. Only because her parents threw boatloads of cash at her treatment, Miena managed to hang on for another 7 years. But that was about it, and that realization crushed the whole Sidus family, making them feel totally helpless. Mom and Dad flew in top doctors from the capital, bought our daughter every medicine she needed. Even a master healer mage came to see her, but his skills were useless. It was all for nothing. No matter how hard her parents tried, the disease kept torturing her every single day. Tina, her voice heavy with despair, begged her mistress not to say things like that because it upset everyone. The maid promised her mistress that she'd always be there, supporting her and comforting her through the tough times. That's exactly why the girl couldn't give up, no matter the hardships and trials she had to face. But the main character knew that Miena Sidus's death wouldn't shock anyone, sadly. The girl told her maid she was going to sleep until dinner and asked not to be woken up before then. The main character closed her eyes and drifted off, hoping she'd feel better when she woke up. Miena's dreams probably looked normal to other people, but she felt them differently. There was something special about these dreams, something that pulled her in and made her forget reality. The main character decided to check out what people were into these days, what they were dreaming about. Miena found a news story about Somnium and Linex finally uniting, which was a huge deal. She happened to live in the Somnium Empire, and Linex was this thriving kingdom across the sea that always fascinated her. The main character got hyped because now she could hunt for dreams, which had always been a mystery to her. The place Miena was headed to felt like a waiting room, thick with secrets and magic. Journeys like this let the main character experience stuff she never had before, and it was mind-blowing. You could call it a dream tour, where every dream unlocked new horizons and possibilities to explore. And behind those shimmering doors lies something that could be seriously useful for her future adventures and discoveries. It was late morning, and doors like this usually don't show up at this hour, which gave her a little bit of a weird feeling. The main character looked around, figuring she'd never been here before. This place was totally new to her. She walked up to this huge door and stopped, heart pounding with excitement and a little bit of dread. Miena knocked, apologizing for barging in, hoping whoever was inside would understand. The door swung open, and the main character had to shield her eyes from this crazy bright light that blinded her for a second. Next thing she knew, she was in this pitch-black void, totally lost and wondering what the hell was coming next. Miena knew she had to get out of there, 'cause this place was giving her the creeps, and she felt danger all around. There wasn't even a sign on the door, so something was definitely up, and that made her even more uneasy. The main character froze in her tracks when she heard some dude's voice, cutting off her escape plan. A boy peeked out of the darkness, asking who was there, his voice cautious but kinda curious too. The main character called out into the darkness, asking if anyone was there, and waited for someone to answer. A quiet voice answered, asking who she was and what she wanted in this gloomy, messed-up place. Miena thought this whole thing was super weird, talking to someone in a dream that wasn't hers, and she didn't know what to do. The voice said he'd never seen a girl in this place before, which surprised him, 'cause usually nobody's here. Miena figured that if even a little breeze came along, you wouldn't be able to hear that tiny voice at all. The main character started wondering if she should just get out of this dream or try to talk to this silent kid. After thinking it over for a few seconds, Miena asked if she could just talk to the strange boy. She grinned and assured him she wasn't scary at all, just a curious girl who wandered into his world. The main character asked if she could let in a little light, 'cause she couldn't stand being in the dark for long. But the tiny voice immediately pleaded with her not to, which made her uneasy, 'cause he sounded scared. Miena suggested they just chat, but the boy refused to talk to her even about that, and it bummed her out a little. She figured it was time to head back, nothing she could do in this mess and no clue what to even try. But out of nowhere, the kid blurts out his parents told him never to talk to strangers 'cause they're freaked out. The main character was thrown for a loop when the kid revealed his dad was the one who laid down the law, scared of everyone. Miena asked the kid his name, but he clammed up, couldn't spit it out. He goes, "Why do you want to know?" Which kinda stung, 'cause she was just trying to be friends. She was about to explain herself, but the words just choked in her throat, all nerves and dread. Then, boom, she felt the whole space around her start warping and fading, faster and faster every second. Looking down at her hands, Miena realized she was about to wake up and snap back to real life, back to the grind. She promised the kid she'd be back tomorrow, same time, and told him to wait for her in this weird-ass place. He was totally taken aback by that, didn't know how to react to some strange woman saying that in this crazy situation. They practically threw the main girl out the door before she could even say a word, and then she was just gone. The girl woke up to shouting not far from her room, totally confused about what was going on. The Sadis family's maid apologized to the young lady, asking if the noise had bothered her. The Sadis family wasn't exactly famous, and frankly, nobody at the mansion seemed to like them much. Their only real claim to fame was their ancient name and the rich history of their ancestors who'd made a mark. But all that history only mattered if they had a daughter of marrying age who could carry on the bloodline. But marriage was out of the question, since the Duke only had one sick daughter and nobody knew what her future held. There was only one explanation. It had to be that loan shark coming to collect the Sidus family's debts. Technically, he wasn't breaking any laws, but he was definitely trying to profit off of other people's misery. The main character asked Tina how long that guy had been hanging around the Sidus estate. The maid said the guy just got here, and the master came downstairs to the living room like 15 minutes ago. First things first, Miena needed to figure out what the hell was going on, 'cause everything felt totally off. She quickly told Tina she needed to get some fresh air, clear her head, and just chill for a second. The maid told her lady that the master said to keep her in her room till the guest leaves, which was totally bugging her. You gotta wonder, was the maid just worried about her, or was she thinking about something else important for the Sidus family? The main character flopped back on the bed and told Tina she got it, and wouldn't cause any more trouble. Miena wasn't about to throw a tantrum, she was past that. She decided to play it smart. She decided to try something else, and started coughing non-stop, hoping it would get the maid's attention. The main character weakly asked the maid to bring her some water, 'cause her throat was killing her. She told Tina to get her a glass of water, like, now, 'cause she was feeling super awful, and the main girl needed some cough medicine to get rid of this nasty feeling in her throat. The family's maid hurried out of the room, promising to bring it all in a minute, then dashed towards the kitchen. The main character was so tired of lying in bed all day, just waiting to finally be set free. She knew damn well she wouldn't get away with that again, and she needed to be way more careful. Miena cracked open the door to the room where the shouting was coming from, peeking in with curiosity and fear. The moneylender was yelling that the Duke couldn't even cough up a tiny bit, never mind the whole debt right now. The estate owner said it wasn't exactly a small amount, and he didn't know how to fix this problem quickly. The main girl figured the guy was making a huge scene here, and it might mess with her destiny. The moneylender asked if the Duke could pay him back even part of the money if he waited a little longer for an answer. He added that he'd already heard rumors that the mortgaged mine was only bringing in losses, and that worried him. The main character stepped out of the shadows, thinking the loan shark looked like a total idiot. The lender said that since the Duke couldn't pay him back, he was taking the mansion for himself. Miena wondered if she should have butted in, since the whole situation seemed way too messed up and dangerous. The men stopped arguing the second the main character couldn't stifle a cough, giving herself away. She awkwardly greeted her father, not knowing how to explain why she was even there. The main character confessed that the noise woke her up, and she didn't know what to do next in the house. The loan shark, eyeing the kid, figured she was the Duke's daughter, and that got his attention. Miena bowed her head to the lender and apologized for interrupting their conversation and business. The loan shark figured the girl didn't have much longer to live in this world, that's for sure. The lender cleared his throat and announced that was all for today, and he was getting out of there. He added that the Duke should be grateful, since he has a daughter the same age, and that played a part. The loan shark said he'd be back to see the Duke at the end of the month to collect the debt, with interest. The lender took a step toward the door, then stopped, like he just remembered something. He promised to make life hell for the Sidus family if they didn't pay him back soon. The main character smirked, thinking, "How's my acting, fellas?" The Duke told his daughter he really didn't want her to see him so pathetic and helpless. Miena managed to kick that crook out of the mansion, and she felt a little relieved. Next time, she decided she'd do everything she could to keep her family from losing this house. The main character said with a warm smile that it'd be great if her dad stopped spending money on her. Her parents did absolutely everything they could for her, so she wouldn't want for anything. Thanks to them, the main character lived way longer than she had any right to, considering she should have been 6 feet under. The Duke snapped, telling his daughter not to say stuff like that, things that could upset him. That's exactly why the main character decided there was no way she was backing down from what she wanted. Miena asked her dad if getting this deep in debt was even worth it. Her father stammered, asking what she was even talking about and what was bothering her so much. The main character told him to face the truth and stop hiding from reality. After Miena's gone, the people living on the estate have to move on and remember her. The Duke froze solid when he heard his daughter's words, not knowing how to even respond. He cried out desperately, begging Miena not to talk crazy and to hold on to hope, to believe things would get better. The main character noticed her father's hands, shaking with worry and anxiety. She smiled warmly, trying to reassure her dad so he wouldn't stress so much. Miena said she was going to spend her last days not worrying about anything, just enjoying life. The girl just couldn't stand seeing her parents suffer because of her anymore. The Duke and Duchess gave our girl a great life, showering her with love and endless care. That's exactly why she didn't want to be a burden to them or upset them because of her condition. The main character told her dad she wanted to go see some beautiful places with him and enjoy nature. She dreamed of checking out some sights and eating awesome food with good company. The Duke frowned, worried, saying she sounded like she was about to leave him forever. The main character smiled and said she knew her own body better than anyone else in the world. She could feel death slowly creeping closer and closer to her with each passing day. Miena, with a warm smile, said it was time to prepare for saying goodbye, and it wouldn't be easy. The Duke looked sadly at his daughter, saying they were so lucky to have such a kind child. She never fussed, even when she was a tiny baby, and that always made her parents happy. Hearing his own daughter say things like that was brutal, because he didn't want to lose her. The Duke, hiding his feelings, forced a smile and sighed, telling his daughter they'd go wherever she wanted. They'd try anything Miena wanted, because this might be their last chance. The head of the family promised they'd try to make the most of this time, with joy for everyone. The main character smiled and announced that first, she wanted to go to the abandoned Tala's mines. A long time ago, there was a merchant who dreamed of traveling the world and becoming a treasure hunter. But he was forced to settle down in his hometown and take over the family business. This guy was raking in serious cash with his crazy skills, no matter what job he took. But he just couldn't shake his childhood dream, so he decided to stash away a treasure chest. The dude couldn't wrap his head around dying before finding the perfect hiding spot for his loot. The main girl piped up, saying all that was left was finding the right place for the treasure. It'd be smart to bury the chest where nobody in their right mind would even think to look for it later. It instantly clicked for the girl that they could bury it on the land her family owned. The guy looked up at the sky and saw clouds forming words, like they were calling out to him. Even the heavens were helping him make his dream a reality, but he still had his doubts. Sometime later, the Duke and his daughter arrived at the spot she wanted to take him to. Taking in the scene, the guy asked, confused, if his daughter wanted to pick a different place for them. The main character could smell the money radiating from the earth, pulling her in like a magnet. She squeezed her dad's arm, silently begging him to trust her, to just hold on and not worry. Miena knew for a fact that an incredible sight was about to open up before them, the one she'd been waiting for. The main character ran ahead a bit, then stopped to figure out which way to go and what to do next. Where the source of life meets its end, a new story is born, full of amazing events and adventures. Everything in this world had a beginning, and every moment was crucial to their future and their goals. The point where water and land met was the mine's spring, the one surrounded by rumors and legends. Not everyone could crack the merchant's riddle, but our girl here solved it without breaking a sweat. Miena smiled at her father, telling him she had a favor to ask, something that needed his attention. The Duke said his daughter just had to name it, and he'd do anything for her happiness and peace of mind. The main girl asked her old man to step into the creek, and the dude was totally caught off guard like, what the fuck? Miena promised him that if the Duke went into the water, she'd put in 100% to get better. She even said she'd take all the nasty medicine just to kick this sickness and help her dad out. The main girl added that if anything happened to her, the Duke could just let everything go, no regrets. No matter what went down with the family, the guy couldn't back out now. He promised to save his daughter and her dreams. That's why the Duke would be stoked if his daughter didn't throw in the towel when things got rough. He dipped his hands in the water and told Miena there was nothing there. But then, Duke Sidus froze up, eyes popping wide with surprise and worry. Tina asked her boss, all confused, if he'd actually found something in that dirty creek. Who would have figured there'd be something hidden there, just waiting for its moment and a treasure hunter? You can't judge a book by its cover. It's a lesson everyone should have learned by now. The Duke pulled the chest from the water and cracked it open right away, barely believing his eyes, a rush of joy hitting him. The guy asked, totally lost, how any of this could possibly be true, given the mess they were in right now. Miena confessed she actually had this ability to sniff out money and riches all around her. At first, the kid didn't want to hunt for the treasure because she felt like crap, but then she changed her mind. The Duke probably wanted to know why his daughter kept her gift a secret from him and everyone else. She apologized to her dad for not telling him sooner about her skill and how she could help the family through the tough times. Now, Miena was going to pay back all the money the Duke had spent on her these last few years. Even though the chest didn't seem heavy, that was all thanks to a weight-reducing spell cast on it way back when. Once word gets out about this find, every gold digger and freeloader will come swarming into these mines. The main character totally freaked when the Duke spun her around like that, cutting off her train of thought. The Duke confidently told his daughter he'd already decided to save that money for important medicine, just in case. By the main character's calculations, even a fraction of the treasure should be enough to pay off all her debt and help her family. After a rough day, Miena drifted back to sleep, completely drained from everything that went down. She barely managed to stop her dad from blowing all their money, but it took everything she had and she was wiped. Still, the main character had other things she needed to focus on, stuff that couldn't wait. A little later, she saw a shimmering door in front of her, beckoning her closer with its strange light and warmth. The girl instantly remembered the boy she'd talked to in her dream, and her heart filled with hope. The main character shook off those thoughts and decided to deal with problems as they came. Honestly, she'd rather just die than be sick and suffer from constant pain that never lets up. Miena threw open the door and stepped inside, feeling a little nervous about what was waiting for her on the other side. From the shadows, she heard a familiar voice greet her, warm and friendly. Miena suggested they quietly figure things out today and just talk about what's been bugging them both. The main character looked him straight in the eye, full of conviction, and begged him to ignore everyone but her. Besides, he already broke that rule by greeting her like they'd known each other forever. She promised his dad wouldn't find out about their talk unless he went and blabbed to him himself. The kid might seem carefree, but he was actually pretty cautious and always thought about the consequences. They'd brainwashed him so bad he didn't even feel free in his dreams and was scared of everything around him. The kid whispered, asking if nobody would really find out, because he was terrified of losing what he cared about. The main character smirked and told him he just needed to keep his mouth shut to avoid any unnecessary drama. Miena just straight up told the shy kid to call her by her first name, like real friends do. But the dude was like, "Huh? What's that even mean?" He was totally clueless, so she explained that it meant they'd talk as buddies, sharing whatever's on their minds. Miena was floored when he asked what a friend even was. I mean, that's like basic stuff. What kind of life has this kid been living if he doesn't even know about friendship and human connection? She got curious. What's his everyday life really like, and what does he dream about? Miena told him a friend is someone you can hang out with anytime for no reason at all and just have a blast. Friends learn from each other and share the good times, the stuff that makes life worth living. The kid was like, "Whoa, that sounds kinda complicated," but Miena just smiled and shook her head. She reached out her hand and told him she'd be his friend, always there to back him up when things get rough. This girl vowed to herself she'd hunt down that guy and make him pay for what he did to that kid. The second the kid said he didn't have a name, the main character declared she'd call him Ruth. The girl grinned when she realized the boy really liked his new name, and that made her happy. She decided to tell Ruth everything she knew about this world, so he'd understand what was going on. So, the boy couldn't forget that he needed to repay the Mina family for what they did. The main character asked the kid a bunch of questions about himself, but Ruth couldn't answer a single one. Mine decided to focus on Patrick Johnson today and figure out what the heck was going on with him. The girl heard a voice yelling for someone to bring him more beer and meat for the celebration. The main character couldn't figure out what all the commotion was and why everyone was rushing around so much. The man Miena had transformed into started yelling at some dude, calling him a total freaking slacker. Dad was asking if he really had to look down from heaven at his son's drunk face, saying it was messed up and sad. The guy immediately started apologizing to his father, realizing he was acting like a total jerk. His dad reminded him that he'd already seen what the family will said, and he needed to keep that in mind always. In his will, Lauren made it clear that anyone in the world could use his treasure map, no exceptions. Patrick stammered that leaving a family will like that was kind of cruel to him and everyone else. Lauren snapped, telling his son to just figure out the damn puzzle already and grab the treasure without overthinking it. Tears welled up in Patrick's eyes because his dead father was yelling at him. Lauren promised he'd help his son crack the code, and they'd figure it all out together, no matter what. The guy asked why his dad couldn't just tell him where the freaking treasure chest was buried. The main girl mentally called the guy a moron, thinking nothing in their lives comes that easy. The girl popped out of Patrick's body and started complaining about everything happening around her. She couldn't wrap her head around how someone could be such a screw-up and not handle basic life stuff. Miena figured the treasure would be stuck at that creek for centuries, and Lauren would never find peace. Another dream said the treasure map went to the only son of the Johnson family. The main character wondered why she wasn't waking up and couldn't escape this weird world already. After a while, Miena finally managed to wake up and look around. The room was pretty bright and cozy. She immediately spotted Tina, who was looking at her pitifully like she was about to burst into tears. The main character smiled and gave the maid a warm greeting. It was nice to see a familiar face this morning. Then the girl noticed her father, who was also looking at her sadly, his eyes filled with worry and tenderness. Miena wondered if she'd just overdone it yesterday, with so much happening in a single day and night. The Duke forced a smile, saying his daughter could ask for anything as long as she was happy and healthy. Considering it was morning, Miena hadn't overslept too badly, but she still felt a little tired and groggy. She told the Duke they needed to exchange the gold for money and ban outsiders from the Tal's mines ASAP. If access to the mines is restricted, people will definitely want to buy up the whole land. That could solve a lot of problems. Our girl's gonna watch the bidding war unfold and just bask in the smell of money hanging in the air around them. The Duke took his precious daughter's hand and asked her to look at how sick he was. His voice sounded worried and sad. Miena was taken aback when her father asked her to drop the matter, especially since she'd only slept a few hours. The main character tried to reassure him, saying even the toughest people struggle with long journeys. With a wide smile, she told her dad that yesterday was an awesome day, full of joy and good times. The Duke sat down and stroked his beloved daughter's hair. His gentle touch helped her feel more confident. For real, the guy was almost ready to let her go with a smile, but he was still sweating her safety. But they're gonna fight tooth and nail till the end. No way they're giving up, no matter what crap they gotta face. The main girl closed her eyes, thinking how awesome it'd be if her mom came home soon and gave her a hug. Her mom's note said she was in another duchy, where some young lord was sick with the same thing as Miena. Hopefully this kid gets better quick so the main girl can see her mom, 'cause she really needs her right now. Miena walked to the door to her mom's dream world, her heart filling up with hope of seeing her. Then she spotted another door with the name Justin Everdine on it, a name she didn't recognize at all. The main girl wondered if she should sneak a peek into this world, could be full of mysteries and adventures for her. Next thing she knew, she was in a room like a study, with this vibe that was both chill and kinda spooky. This dude's voice, all annoyed, was like, he ain't seen her here before, and he was clearly pissed she showed up. This kid I didn't know just pops up and asks the main girl who she is and what she's doing in this freaky place. He had jet black hair and these silvery gray eyes that looked totally tired and pissed off. Just one look at him, and Miena knew they were cut from the same cloth, even with his constant griping. The heroine morphed into a maid and told Master Justin it was time for his second meal. He mumbled like how weird it was that a maid just randomly showed up in this backwater world. Miena was thinking, could this brat lay off? I'm just doing my job in this messed up game. Justin snapped again, asking the stranger who she was and why she showed up unannounced. The main girl hated smart Alex, so she straight up transformed into an angel to blow his mind. But even that didn't faze the dude, who was too busy caught up in his own head and his own crap. The angel said not to be surprised, because his mother's prayers reached heaven and were helping everyone on Earth. You could tell Justin wasn't buying a word of it, still staring at her with this bored, skeptical look. He plopped down at the table and said the angel didn't look anything like the messengers from God he'd heard about as a kid. The main character, still playing the part, said that even if she showed him proof, the kid still wouldn't believe her, sadly. It was clear Justin was your typical atheist, meaning convincing him she was telling the truth was gonna be tough, a real uphill battle. The angel asked the kid what was wrong, why he looked so tired and bummed out. Justin explained it was usually just a headache, but lately he'd been getting fevers and other nasty stuff going on in his body. It wasn't anything too serious, so the main character actually started feeling a little jealous of this kid and his carefree life. The angel asked him to describe his daily routine, but Justin was skeptical and just smirked at her. The main character suggested the kid turn to God, but he just shook his head at the idea. Justin said that when he wakes up, he feels like crap, so he always skips breakfast every single day. So, what else do you even do? The main character snapped, how do you spend your time after you wake up? He said he had to do lunch and dinner, because he's gotta be there for those meals with his folks every single time. When night rolls around, Justin just crashes, hoping tomorrow will be better and he can actually get some freaking rest. Then, once he's asleep, he starts diving into books, losing himself in fantasy and adventure on the pages. The main character figured she finally understood why this annoying kid was so messed up. She forced a smile, because the little jerk was just burning the candle at both ends and doesn't know when to quit. Justin explained that he's wearing himself out because he feels obligated, and he doesn't know how to deal with it, which sucks. The kid guessed that he's having this dream so he can take a good, hard look at himself and figure out what he's afraid of. He told the angel to cut to the chase so they can get the most out of this conversation and make it more productive. The main character lost it and chucked the kid into a pile of stuffed animals, hoping it would cheer him up and boost his mood. Justin yelled, "What the hell is going on?" Why is everything happening in a way I didn't expect? The angel told the boy to get some rest, promising to stay with him until he fell asleep and forgot his worries. The boy resisted, saying he had things to do and couldn't just go to sleep. It was important to him. The next day, the maid noticed that the young lady was in a great mood, and everyone around her could see it. Everything was falling into place exactly as the main character had anticipated, which made her really happy. Patrick Johnson started searching for the treasure, and everyone else took the bait and began wandering the mines, hoping to strike it rich. Luckily, because of the timely precautions, no one managed to sneak into the Tal's mines unnoticed, and that was super important. The more interest there is in this land, the faster we'll find a buyer who'll offer us a fat stack of cash for it. The main character took a sip of tea and remembered Justin, who had become her responsibility lately. The young master had absolutely no idea what those nasty sounds surrounding him were or where they were coming from. Angel said this stuff is super popular where she's from, and it's supposed to be really calming. Just in case Justin couldn't sleep, the heroine even wrote him a note with tips and left it nearby. Miena visited Justin every night and patiently lulled him to sleep, which finally brought their mom back home. The heroine told the maid that the weather's amazing today, and they should spend the day outside. She was sure it was going to be a great day because Mom was coming home soon, and everything would be better for the whole family. But it didn't take long for the heroine to start doubting herself after seeing who their guest was. Justin was standing right there, grinning at her, and it gave her a seriously bad feeling. Mom asked her daughter why she wasn't in bed, getting some rest. The heroine couldn't take her eyes off the dark-haired kid. There was something mysterious about him that grabbed her attention. She was thrown for a loop when Justin gave her this surprised look, and she couldn't figure out what was so shocking to him about her at that moment. Miena was betting this kid was obsessed with his rep and wouldn't screw anything up. Mom introduced her daughter to Mr. Everdine, that workaholic who's always buried in projects. The woman said that after reading Miena's letter, the young duke was dying to meet her and talk business. Justin thanked the girl, saying she made him feel way better and more confident in himself. He was super grateful and wanted to tell her face to face to show her how much it meant to him. Crazy, right? Justin only needed one glance to memorize the main character's look and charm. Mom noticed her daughter froze up, so she called out to her, worried and not knowing why. The main character explained she just spaced out seeing the Duke in person and didn't know how to act. Not surprising though, cause this kid could recite a huge book after just reading it once in a dream. Miena shyly said that if she'd known the guest was coming, she'd have asked Tina to doll her up proper. Meeting a guest in my housecoat was totally embarrassing, so I asked for some time to change and look presentable. Mom chimed in, saying you can't keep a young lord waiting, especially when he rushed all the way here to see us. But I dug my heels in, and they couldn't say no, knowing how important this was to me. A little later, I stood before the young lord, rocking a new look, and felt way more confident. Smiling, I offered Justin a cup of tea and suggested we chat about life. The young lord agreed right away, super happy for the chance to talk to such an awesome girl. I thanked the guy for looking after Mom and showing so much care for my family and loved ones. Justin had heard the Sidus family wasn't exactly rolling in dough and felt bad for them. I explained I'd heard about symptoms similar to his, so I wanted to share the recipe and help out. That's why the young lord was able to bounce back so fast and get back to normal after being sick. Justin grinned, saying it was all thanks to Lady Sidus. She'd given him invaluable help when he was down and out. The main character told the young duke that he should thank her doctors, not her, since they did everything they could. Justin admitted he'd pictured the lady a little differently than she actually was, and he was pleasantly surprised. He explained that if he'd known she was so shy, he would have let her know he was coming ahead of time. The main character replied, flustered, that she probably would have just run away, too embarrassed to know what to do. Justin was really glad he finally got to talk to the lady, since he'd been wanting to meet her for ages. She said she hadn't been feeling well for the past few days, but she was doing a bit better now, feeling a little lighter. The young duke said he felt he had to check on the lady's health, seeing as she'd spent a few nights with him. The main character realized this sly fox was going for broke right away, trying to impress her with his charm. Without missing a beat, Miena asked if the young master had been dreaming about her, because that sounded pretty weird. Justin smirked and told the young lady Sidus to drop the act like she doesn't know anything. The main character said, flustered, that she had no idea what he was talking about and was surprised by it. She immediately noticed Justin's face change, his gaze turning icy like he was disappointed with her answer and reaction. He said it'd be ridiculous for him to forget something he'd seen even once in his life. Justin wasn't dumb enough to erase from his memory the face of someone who suddenly appeared right in front of him and surprised him. But the main character was convinced anyone would start hallucinating from exhaustion like that, and it's totally normal. Justin suggested they stop with the charade and get straight to the point because time waits for no one and they needed to move. The main character told him she hadn't even said a word during all this because she was too embarrassed, but he wanted to offer the girl something that might interest her and pique her curiosity. Justin was sure the lady would be very interested since she recently multiplied her capital out of nowhere and could now take a risk. Miena was ready to give in, but before going further, she wanted to get something straight and ask Justin a few questions. She asked why the young master was so sure that she was the girl from his dream. Justin calmly explained that she looked a lot like her mother, so he had no doubts about his assumptions. If she looked more like her father, she definitely wouldn't have been suspected or drawn any attention. Miena confirmed his words and said that she really was the person who visited him in the dream. Justin thoughtfully replied that he understood the principle now, and he was starting to get it more and more. The main character said plaintively that she actually wanted to apologize to him for her harsh words and actions. He asked, confused, what she was apologizing for, and didn't understand what she could have done wrong in their conversation. Miena reminded him that she hadn't been very polite to Justin in the dream, and that might have offended him. The guy denied it, saying her radical measures had a positive effect and things had actually gotten better. He promised to make his commitment official with a contract, saying it meant a lot to him. The heroine reminded him she didn't have long to live, and that's what worried her most. She stopped taking her meds on her own, so now she treasured every second like never before. The guy insisted his offer should interest her since she could get the benefit she needed. But was it really worth spending that precious time on? She wasn't so sure about that. Justin said he totally understood what she was talking about, and he was glad to hear it from her. Even though flaunting wealth is frowned upon in high society, you can't hide it completely, unfortunately. The sudden improvement in the Sidus family's wealth was a surprise, not just to Justin's family, but to him too. The heroine said in an innocent tone that she just got lucky and never expected such success. Justin promised that Grand Duke Everdine would give her family financial support when they needed it most. Miena was totally thrown by what the Lord said, and she didn't know how to react to any of it. Tina, the personal maid, just froze with the teapot in her hands, clueless about what was going on. The main character thanked the woman and asked her to leave them alone for a bit to discuss the family's future. She promised she'd definitely talk to her parents later when she actually had the time. Miena knew damn well they needed some kind of safety net to avoid screwing themselves over down the line. It's the only way to keep people from wondering where the Sidus family is getting the cash to live on. Justin promised his protection if the lady held up her end of the bargain and didn't let him down. The guy said their talk convinced him he was making the right call, and he's not second-guessing it now. He added that he had a really good feeling about how their partnership and teamwork would play out. But to make him right, they've got to think through every single move in this tricky situation and nail all the details. The main character's family was seriously hurting for cash, so there was no way she could pass up this opportunity. Miena said she wanted to know what the young duke's terms were, and that's what she cared about most. Since this was a contract with the option to renew after it expired, they needed to phrase everything just right. But first, they needed to make sure the trade agreement between Somnium and Linux went through smoothly. Justin reiterated that he was asking her to help ensure the successful conclusion of the trade agreement between the countries. The main character explained that her family had nothing to do with foreign affairs, and she didn't want to get involved. Besides, the young lord knew absolutely nothing about the main character's abilities, and that made him a little uneasy. Justin knew perfectly well that the lady could travel through other people's dreams and control them freely, and that amazed him. She could also change her appearance whenever she felt like it, which made her unique among other people in society. Still, the main character didn't understand how her abilities could affect the outcome of the agreement. Miena told the young master to spell it out so she could understand his thoughts and intentions regarding the deal. Justin confessed that the more they talked, the more overjoyed he felt meeting her. He suggested the young lady take a break too, just like she offered him earlier. The main character explained that even though she was sleep-deprived, it wasn't related to her illness, and that was important to understand. Justin smirked, hearing the lady's words, and it became clear to him that she was really serious about their conversation right now. Miena said she couldn't help with that, because she wasn't allowed to attend political gatherings. However, the young master declared that wouldn't be necessary, because he had another plan to achieve his goal. All the lady would need to do is infiltrate the dreams of the Linux embassy members to find out their intentions and plans. The main character couldn't understand if trade agreements were some kind of joke to this guy. It really surprised her. She asked if the young duke was really being serious right now, and she was genuinely curious. Justin said the deal with Linux was taking way too long, and it was seriously bugging him. The news was already out in the papers, so all that was left was to hammer out the important details. But then, out of nowhere, Linux suddenly got cold feet and threw a whole bunch of new demands at him, which totally threw him for a loop. Thinking about it, the Empire's Magic Stone production has dropped off a cliff lately, which is freaking everyone out. Miena pointed out that during the negotiations, it came out that the kingdom's somnium reserves are practically bone dry. The young duke smirked and said the lady was exceptionally insightful, which he found both surprising and delightful. The rulers of Linux weren't getting practically any benefit from this deal, and that was seriously stressing them out. That's why Justin was working himself to the bone, even in his sleep. He's intrigued by the main character's unusual abilities. The young duke chuckled and said that now he wouldn't even have to explain anything to her again, which was convenient. He remarked that Milady wasn't nearly as dead set against it as before, which made him genuinely happy. Justin was saying that it'd be like hitting the jackpot for anyone to meet a god face to face, like he did. The main girl agreed to the deal, but said she wanted to nail down some specifics about the terms. She made it clear she wasn't just after a handout. She wanted to be equal business partners, that was key. Plus, any intel Miena got had to be legit, triple-checked beforehand. The young duke agreed, adding he wasn't about to jerk her around. His word meant something. The main girl told him not to forget to chill, even if she stopped showing up in his dreams. Justin was floored to hear that from her and suddenly wondered what she really thought about all this. Miena explained that she just didn't want her partner getting sick, and honestly, she really meant it. He smirked and announced he had one condition too, about how they'd work together moving forward. Talent needed to be rewarded, and Justin's family always backed talented folks. It was a win-win. Justin wondered if he hadn't jumped the gun a little with what he'd said to the young lady. He explained that they were planning to expand their business soon, which would secure his family's financial future. That meant Miena would have enough cash to buy the meds she needed to stay alive and healthy. Of course, Justin didn't want his partner getting sick either. Her health was crucial to their shared venture. The main character decided that since the deal was done, it was time to get to work and move fast. Miena was sure she was dreaming, but she felt like she was falling deeper into it, which was super weird. She had no clue why the young duke decided to give her such an important job, and it blew her mind. The girl figured this dude had to be nuts to offer her something like that. He was definitely off his rocker. The main character opened one of the doors and greeted Ruth, who looked totally bummed and depressed. She was taken aback when she realized the kid was sobbing his eyes out and couldn't calm down. Ruth stammered out that he'd just heard a noise, which totally freaked him out and he didn't know what to do. Miena figured she'd ask the kid how he was doing, and if he'd met anyone new in this weird place. He shook his head, saying he just gets food when he wakes up, then studies with his dad. The guy's been telling his son about his duties and powers, like it's super crucial for their future. The main girl was totally lost on what this kid was even talking about, and it was seriously messing with her head. Miena asked if he plays with toys or looks out the window in his free time, just to kill time. Seeing Ruth's reaction, the main girl realized the kid's messed up dreams probably mirror his messed up reality. With things like this, there's no way he's having normal dreams. I mean, that'd be obvious to anyone. Ruth looked totally confused, saying he had no clue what that meant or why he was feeling this way. The main girl pleaded with the kid to show her his world. She wanted to understand what he was going through, his fears and all. Ruth hesitated, then said he'd give it a shot, even though he wasn't sure he was up to it right now. Miena noticed the boy's room didn't even have a single window, and that really freaked her out. A man walked up to the kid and asked how his day was, and the main character realized it was his dad. The maid filled the bathtub and told the boy it was bath time, and he looked completely wiped out. The kid sat down in the water and stared at her with this empty look. He was clearly not happy about what was going on around him. The boy just kept doing the same thing over and over, day after day, without fail, and it became his routine, his habit. He didn't know any different. She asked if the boy had ever done anything else before they met, even once, and he just shook his head. It was weird. Ruth was lost in thought, and that's when the main character declared that she was going to be his first real friend in this life. For the boy, even her showing up was a totally unpredictable thing, and she just didn't fit into his worldview at all. The main character knew she couldn't just let things slide, or everything could go sideways, and that was way too risky. She was floored by how much bigger this whole thing was than she thought, and it was seriously freaking her out. But Miel didn't have time to wallow in regret and helpless anger. It was a total waste. The main character reached out her hand, giving Ruth the chance to choose. She was really hoping he'd decide and answer. If he didn't take her hand, he'd be stuck in this pitch-black darkness for his whole childhood, and that was just awful and depressing. Miena explained that she wouldn't be able to help the boy his entire life, and that really bummed her out. The main character promised that as long as she had the strength, she'd teach Ruth, giving them both hope for a better future. But the more the boy knew, the harder things would be for him down the line, and that applied to both of them. Once you know what you've been missing, you can really feel the pain of not being able to enjoy it fully. And then, realizing your limitations and helplessness, you could just break under the weight of your worries and fear. But if the kid's not uncomfortable, there's no need to change anything. He can stay the way he is, and that's his call. The main character gave him a warm smile, saying it was up to Ruth, and that mattered to both of them. The kid mumbled that he wanted her to keep visiting, 'cause it made him happy. All the main character could do for Ruth was convince him that he could live without her. Miena promised Ruth she'd come see him no matter what, and he was really banking on that promise. The main character held out her hand again, saying Ruth could come to her. It was a big step for both of them. The boy was blown away by what she said. He never expected someone to care about him like that. Ruth was stoked that his new friend explained what a name was. It was a total game changer for him, the way he saw the world. He also dug the name she gave him. It felt special and, honestly, really cool. Ruth was really hoping she'd tell him about a bunch of other stuff, 'cause he was hungry for new knowledge and getting to know her. Finally, the main character could really see the boy's face, and that was key to understanding how he felt, now that they were getting closer. Ruth stepped out of the shadows and said hi to Miena, feeling a little awkward but still happy to see her. The main character flashed a big smile at her new friend, and she felt a bond of trust and warmth growing between them. She said she wouldn't be able to visit Ruth every single day, or promise to show up at the same time. Miena added that it's better not to make promises you can't keep, which was both smart and really important of her. But Ruth wouldn't have to wait too long. He knew her word was good, especially since their friendship was just starting. The boy cheered, saying he was totally good at waiting, and it made him feel confident about his feelings for his new pal and their connection. The main character pointed out that Ruth was the one who burst into tears when he saw her earlier, and it really got to her. Miena told the boy that she wasn't the only person in his world. There were other people out there too. She might be his first friend, but she definitely wouldn't be his last, and they had tons of new meetups and adventures ahead. So if Miena ever disappeared, Ruth shouldn't think he was going to be alone for the rest of his life. So the main character asks Ruth if he wants her to show him something really cool and different. Something that'll totally spark his curiosity and make him want to explore the world around him, 'cause it's full of awesome stuff. She conjures up this ball of energy in her hands and shows it to the kid, who's just staring, totally blown away. Ruth's eyes light up like fireworks, man. He's speechless, just mesmerized by what's going on. The main character explains that it's called stars, and they can be super beautiful in the night sky like magic or something. Ruth reaches for the sky, all excited, and repeats the word. He feels like he's part of something bigger now. The main character smiles warmly, 'cause she's so happy to see the boy's reaction to everything. It's so genuine, it gets to her. And that's how she got dragged into all this political bull that she knew nothing about, and became a teacher when she wasn't ready. But after a while, she couldn't figure out how the hell any of this even happened in her life. The young Duke asks if his partner's feeling all right, or if he's just uncomfortable with how things are going down. Judging by Mienna's face, Justin being here was stressing her out, and she had no clue how to handle it. The main character asked if the young Duke was some kind of face reader, able to read people's expressions. That'd be wild. Mienna then checked out the pile of paintings, which the guy clearly dropped a ton of cash on. He asked, all confused, why she was suddenly being so nice to him, and what exactly was up with her. The main character explained she just really appreciated his meticulousness and his thirst for knowledge. She was originally just gonna glance at the canvases, then really dig into the details of all the paintings in her dreams. But now Mienna figured she could just do it now, since she had the time and nothing was stopping her. The god the people of Linux sincerely believe in, the one whose name inspires deep respect, is the mighty Verdandi. Believers are spread all over the continent, which is why the nation's core identity could withstand attacks from others. Basically, if anyone messes with what's sacred, they're gonna get double cursed by a whole damn continent. The young Duke wanted to know if people still needed paintings to decorate their homes and like their souls. She said they did, 'cause different people painted them, and everyone sees something different in each one. Mienna wasn't surprised that every religion has its crazy radicals and fanatics twisting the real teachings. They might freak out if the image of Verdandi is even a little bit different from what they think a saint should look like. Justin asked if the young lady really believed in God, 'cause that's a pretty big deal for a lot of folks. The main character shot back, nope. And that was her honest-to-God take on religion and faith. The young Duke, kinda flustered, said he figured, even though her saying that surprised him a little. The girl asked, don't people turn to faith to find hope for salvation when life gets super rough? Even if God is real, the main character couldn't buy it, seeing as how he'd already sentenced her to a brutal death twice. Justin was like, yeah, I don't believe in God either. There's not even any real proof of it, you know? But here in Somnium, there's this legend passed around about a great emperor and his deal with a dragon. The story goes that the first emperor made a pact with a dragon, and it brought centuries of prosperity to the land. So, the main girl's like, are you talking about the legend that promises eternal prosperity and happiness for our lands? That's the version everyone knows, but there's another one, known only to the emperor's family and his most trusted people. The main girl couldn't believe this kid was actually about to spill a major state secret of the empire. She was dying of curiosity, but something felt fishy, like this was seriously dangerous for her. If she found out, her family could get exiled for leaking state secrets. That's why Mienna said she didn't want to hear the story if it wouldn't benefit everyone. The young Duke smirked and asked what she'd do if the story did benefit them all. She said the story was probably pointless anyway, so there was no reason to tell it. Even if they got equal rights and similar interests, there's still lines you just don't cross, you know? Justin got up from the table and told Mienna he had to bounce, 'cause he was seriously running late. He said he was heading to an auction, so he had to ditch her right then and there. The main girl wished him good luck at the auction, 'cause it was a pretty big deal for him. Back in the capital, people were tripping out that Duke Everdine himself showed up this time. Way more people than usual showed up today. Everyone was hyped for some killer auction items. Mienna Sidis said only 5 people were seriously interested in bidding, and Justin knew she was right. The rest probably just came to the auction house to gawk at the Everdine family. Let's be real. The dude can't go anywhere without suddenly being the center of attention. Everyone's staring at him. But there was this one chick who totally ignored him, like he wasn't even worth a second glance. This young Duke was sure of one thing. This girl was definitely quirky. The way she acts throws everyone for a loop. He remembered Miena saying that giving her medicine was like pouring water into a bottomless pit. She had no clue what the guy expected from this investment, but she could feel his persistence and confidence. Then she added that you get what you give, and there has to be balance in everything. By the time the drugs get to Somnium, she'll be gone. That's how fast things are moving and changing. The young Duke recalled the way the aristocrat was looking at him, her eyes full of mystery and the secrets of life. He blushed a little and smirked, realizing his feelings for her weren't like his feelings for anyone else. When the young Duke said he trusted his gut, the girl couldn't hide her embarrassment and inner joy. If she can convince the politicians to approve the trade agreements, Somnium will be able to develop all sorts of industries. But Justin knew perfectly well that Lady Miena still had a lot to learn about politics and its subtleties in this world. He was totally sure the young lady had given up already, since nothing she tried was working. That airhead cared more about other people than herself, and honestly, it was really getting to him. The auctioneer announced the next lot, the rights to the Tal's mines and surrounding lands, which got everyone hyped. Starting bid was 300,000 peons, and everyone started whispering about snatching it up at the auction. If the price of those abandoned mines ends up being more than the treasure hidden inside, people will bail. Justin thought that, then raised his hand and bid 3 million peons, blowing everyone else in the room away. He decided to use this chance to show his business partner just how much weight the Everdine name carried in deals like this. The main character was in shock when she heard that news. She definitely wasn't expecting things to go down like this at the auction. She was floored seeing numbers like that, way higher than anything she'd hoped or expected at the auction. Justin smugly said he'd take it as a compliment to his quick thinking, pleased with how things were going at the auction. The main character confessed she never thought the auction would go above $1.5 million. Lauren Johnson was worth around $2.5 million, but his son bid a whole $3 million. Miena asked if her emotions were so obvious that everyone could read her like a book. The young Duke stated it seemed to him that Milady sometimes forgot about his family's social standing and influence. Merchants and nobles were hanging on their every word, curious about their next move. They're mostly worried about what the young Duke's family is interested in and what they're buying or selling. The main character realized the Duke's family had way more pull than she'd thought. Considering everyone's interest in the Everdine family, Patrick Johnson needed to get his hands on those mines for himself and his business, too. Justin did what his lady asked, so now she had to hold up her end of the bargain. The main character promised she'd gladly do everything to the best of her ability for her VIP client. In dreams where gods show up, the most important thing was a killer entrance, something that'd burn itself into people's brains. Any deity worth their salt has got to nail the perfect timing and location, all while radiating that holy glow. The guy told his sweetheart he'd been putting this off for 30 years, cause he just couldn't work up the nerve. But all this time, he'd been dying to tell her something, finally manning up to take the plunge. After thinking for a second, she figured her plan was kinda off, considering he was bearing his soul like this. She threw her hand up and bam! A crack ripped open in the sky and everyone around snapped their heads up. The guy was totally lost, like, what the heck was going on and why now of all times? Lust craves what it can't have and is blinded to the truth by that green veil clouding their vision. The dude instantly screamed when he saw who popped up, totally overwhelmed by the feels. The guy immediately dropped to his knees and started bowing to his goddess Verdandi, realizing the weight of this moment. All that's left is to give a pompous speech and make a grand exit, leaving everyone hanging. A redhead walked up to Mr. Robert and said he saw something unbelievable tonight. He asked them to hear him out, but then another hand landed on his shoulder, which just cranked up the tension. The old guy with the beard told everyone to hear him out first, cause he also had something to tell everyone. They started arguing about whose story came first, and both of them were dead set on getting their way. Mr. Robert tried to stop the guys so they could calmly talk things over and reach an understanding. He told his brothers to listen to him, damn it, cause this could solve all the crap between them. The men immediately stopped arguing and looked at the third guy, who could bring some clarity to the discussion. Mr. Robert asked if it didn't strike them as weird that everyone wanted to be heard first at this meeting. They decided to count to 3 so everyone could shout out what they wanted to say and get it off their chests. On the count of 3, we all blurted out that the serpent's so twisted it's biting its own damn tail raw. They were floored when they realized they'd said the exact same thing and couldn't hide their shock. Everyone was convinced this was the divine message they'd been waiting for all this time. Thanks to that crazy coincidence, the delegation of diplomats called off the meeting. The young duke held the newspaper, reading the latest political news of the empire, which totally grabbed his attention. Lady Miena Sidis even managed to foster friendship between nations, even though he'd never asked her to. Seems like the guy's gift really hit the spot with the girl, and that's why she nailed her job. The main character said she couldn't help but take the whole thing super seriously. Justin really hoped this wouldn't backfire and everything would be okay. No drama, no problems. He wasn't gonna scold the lady, he was just a little taken aback by the situation unfolding around them then. Forbidden fruit can't see the truth, not with that green veil clouding its eyes in the shadows of forever. Green's always been tied to greed, so the metaphor hits pretty damn hard, right? For believers in the goddess Verdandi, a snake is a bad omen, a sign of danger up ahead. It's a symbol of being stuck on the karmic wheel, souls spinning around and coming back to life forever. And it means you're trapped here, can't break free and go to the divine realm where the goddess lives. The young duke was sure that an alliance with this kingdom would give their empire a serious military edge. The main character was stoked that her lord was happy and hadn't even gotten pissed about any of it. She noticed that Justin scowls every time she starts acting all cutesy during their conversations. Negotiations stalled for a bit, but it didn't take long for everyone involved to get a win. The main character realized this dude just straight up ignored what she said and changed the subject. It was weird to her that the duke was celebrating victory early, like he didn't realize the consequences of his actions. He wasn't the kind of guy to take things so lightly and never think about the future, you know? Miena asked if he'd forgotten his promise to her and was back to working in his sleep without any rest. Justin replied that he hadn't broken any promises, and he does remember to light those aromatherapy candles in his room. The young duke explained he just values his business partner's talent and respects their opinion on stuff. She asked what that had to do with closing the deal. Shouldn't everything be strictly by the book right now? Justin said that she'd done her part of the deal, which means she can take a break for a while. She looked at the young duke, surprised, and couldn't figure out why he'd do something like that. It felt fishy to her that Duke Everdine was offering her a break and telling her to stop working for now. She walked up to him and said, "People don't change that easily. They always stick to their old habits." Justin explained it was in one of the clauses of the agreement they'd just signed. He said they'd covered all that with Lady Miena's father when they drew up the partnership contract. The family head honcho said the kid just wanted to spend her remaining time with family, enjoying time with loved ones. Justin gave a warm smile and told Miena to chill and have some fun. Forget about business for a while. The main girl was thrown, totally clueless how to even respond to that. She reminded the young duke that time was running out, so they needed to seize the day. Justin didn't agree, and the main girl indignantly demanded to know what crawled up his butt. So Miena Sidus was put on forced vacation, during which everything around her went through some changes. Her parents told her to tell them immediately if she started feeling unwell. Miena Sidus worked tirelessly to get that trade deal signed, and now she's stuck relaxing. Justin was invited to the cabin too, but he turned it down, said he was too busy. The main character knew he'd cleared his schedule for their meetings, so now he had a ton to catch up on. She remembered the Heim mountain range was where the wizards supposedly saw a dragon, but the terrain here was so hilly, you could mistake the mountains themselves for some giant lizard. The estate manager, Leonard Bottler, greeted the guests with a smile. He promised he'd do everything he could to make them comfortable. Miena knew she needed to be polite too, to make a good impression. Duke Sidus asked if his daughter could take a ride on that little boat they saw by the lake. The estate manager approved the request and said he'd get everything ready right away. Before long, the main character was yelling at her dad to slow down a little. Once it was all over, Miena swore she wouldn't share a boat with her dad again, not even at gunpoint. Tina asked if Milady knew that the Duke never wanted to put her in harm's way. Miena understood her old man just wanted to see his kid smile. For once. The maid tucked her in and promised the girl they'd always have her back, no matter what. The main character drifted off into a deep sleep and immediately noticed a shimmering door. She started wavering, constantly wondering whether she should go in or not. The demon was pushing her to go in, while the bright side insisted she shouldn't. But Miena told herself she had to develop her powers somehow to start making some cash. She turned invisible and guessed this was Ruth's dream world. But this place was a little more picturesque and looked like a dark burrow. Hang around here too long and it gets hard to breathe. Plus, you really start feeling the cold and damp of these dirt walls. Since she was already there, she figured she'd walk like 100 steps max, then turn back. Miena was totally freaked, but she couldn't scream, 'cause that would blow her cover for sure. But the main character got super scared and realized she needed to get out of there. Like, now. The girl kept reminding herself that she was Miena Sidus, who conquered fear with her unbreakable will. Suddenly, a dude's voice boomed from behind her saying he could sense someone was around. He asked, where was the cheeky little thing that dared to sneak into his dream? The main character just stared, stunned, at the guy with the freaking vertical pupils. Miena was instantly like, who said dragons weren't real in this world? The little girl disguise vanished the second the stranger snapped his fingers. This was his domain, so everything and everyone here had to bend to his will. The guy loomed over the girl and coldly asked how she'd gotten there. The main character knew damn well that if she didn't speak up, she was toast. That's why she bowed and begged him to forgive her for barging in on his dream. Miena swore she wouldn't tell a soul about what she'd seen that night. She was really hoping this creature would just let her go and not hurt her. The little girl frowned the second the master of this place called her a dumb little human. He promised he wouldn't hurt her, so she didn't need to be afraid of him. Miena realized she had to be careful not to offend this guy if she wanted to leave in one piece. The main character suggested they make the most of it, and she'd answer some questions for him. The stranger smirked, saying the girl had a pretty funny way of talking. Treasure suddenly materialized around Miena, but the guy just told her to follow him. Now, the main character finally understood what a dragon's lair actually looked like. The man immediately guessed she probably pictured his nest differently, and she nodded. He said it's pretty rare for him to meet someone who answers his questions honestly. Miena realized that telling the truth was the smartest thing she'd done in a while. The girl glanced at the jewels, thinking how great it would be to grab them and run. The man announced that if the guest kept being honest, he'd let her ask him 3 questions. The main character was super surprised that a dragon's heart could be so generous. Now she was convinced that dragons really are wiser and nicer than humans. The guy decided to drop the first question, the one he still hadn't gotten an answer to. A sly grin spread across his face, and he asked how the girl ended up in his dream. Miena explained that her powers let her hop freely into other people's dreams, and doors are like portals for her. The dragon paused, thinking, then asked what she looks for when she picks them. Judging by how much energy was built up in Miena's body, she'd had this power for a long time. The main character froze as soon as the guy said he wanted to know how long she'd had it. Miena cut him off, asking him exactly what he was getting at right now, but he reminded her that he's the one asking the questions, and Miena answered, "Since I was 5." She also mentioned that she can run into certain difficulties with some people. Miena also wasn't able to detect anyone who was outside the range of her abilities. No way she could tap into the dreams of anyone chilling in the capital from here. The dragon went silent, processing the info the little girl just dropped on him. She figured this dragon was seriously out of touch, having spent centuries rotting in that cave. Our girl froze up the second the guy asked her how long she thought she had left. In her head, she was like, seriously, is this dragon going for the low blow? Miena said a year, but the dude was like, you're way too chill talking about this. She explained that if she started freaking out, she'd miss something that actually mattered. Out of nowhere, the dragon offered to let her devour his heart to seriously boost her lifespan. Our girl went stone cold and asked, are you seriously trying to pull my leg right now? Maybe her attitude pissed him off, but she wasn't about to put up with being messed with like that. There's nothing worse than giving someone false hope, you know? The dragon smirked and said no one had ever dared to act so bold with him before. The main character realized she just dodged a bullet, almost bursting into tears there. She knew right away that the dragon dude wanted her to find someone for him. Since he asked about her abilities, he must have wanted to make sure Miena could deliver. Considering how much the dragon knew, there's no way he got recent intel himself. The main character gave a sly grin and asked why the guy wouldn't be a little nicer to her then. A sly smile also appeared on the dragon's face, and he told her to not cross the line. Miena decided to ignore that and said you can't get enough breaths before you die anyway. She froze as soon as the dragon told her that otherwise he'd take her head off her shoulders. The girl said, all confused, that if the dragon really wanted to, he could have chopped her head off ages ago. The guy closed his eyes and said that usually, after hearing that, people would be shaking in their boots. Miena smirked and asked what he wanted, but the dragon replied that he hadn't decided yet. Then she reminded him that he'd said earlier that her body was full of energy. The dragon explained that the girl's body was too weak to handle such massive power. The main character didn't buy it and said that in her past life, she was just a regular person and still died. But he said that Miena's gift is just energy flowing through her body. This power's growing way faster than it seems, and even if you use them a lot, it still won't change anything. Suddenly, the dragon announced that the girl had only one question left. This question has haunted her whole life, but she just couldn't find an answer. The guy's eyes went wide when she asked if there were any other dragons or even gods left in the world. Right away, the dragon was like, "So you actually believe in gods?" And she said she wanted to. He thought about it for a second, then finally said, "Nah, there's no one else around." Then the dragon wanted to know if the girl was going to help him now. The main girl just gestured like, "Hold up, that ain't gonna cut it." "Where's the reward?" The guy asked if the dragon's word that he'd give her his heart meant absolutely nothing. She immediately got flustered and told him not to get bent out of shape and to think things through. Miena explained she was only in this place for a short time, and the dragon couldn't leave it anyway. The guy smirked and asked, "How about I give you the right to come to my lair whenever you want?" Even if she turned down his offer, he wouldn't hold it against her. The main character was thinking hard. This was a golden opportunity to befriend a dragon. She turned her head back and gazed at the treasures belonging to the master of this dream. The dragon took a deep breath and announced she could take whatever caught her eye from his hoard. The main character immediately accepted the dragon's offer and was stoked that all these riches could be hers. But it only just dawned on the girl that she couldn't possibly carry all that treasure alone. So she asked the master if her family could also enter the cave. The dragon closed his eyes and said, "Fine." He'd allow her to bring one more person. The man reached his hand out to the girl and said it was nice chatting with her. But now it was time to seal the deal, and he touched the child's forehead. The main character was blindsided that the contract was being made right here, right now. So, the story keeps unfolding at the Sidus family mansion. The more Miena thought about it, the more she was convinced this dragon was totally nuts. Right after she signed the contract, she asked the master what the name of the person he was looking for was. He told her not to worry about it, because everyone already knows about them. Eventually, the dragon asked the girl to find the world tree, called Yggdrasil. Miena didn't get how she was supposed to find it, since she didn't even know if it was real. But she calmed down right away and confidently declared that she could totally handle it. The main character sent out paper airplanes to search for the tree, but they didn't have any luck. The girl knew perfectly well that her parents wouldn't be happy if she went on a trip around the world. She decided to worry about it later, so she flung the door wide open, greeting Ruth. The little dude's eyes lit up like Christmas when he saw his girl. Miena explained she didn't mean to be late, but stuff came up. The kid told her it was cool, no biggie. Suddenly, she noticed stars had started popping up in his dreams. Ruth was confused and reminded her that she was the one who showed them to him. It was still kinda dark and empty in here, but it was better than nothing. Miena grinned, saying the Big and Little Dipper looked especially awesome. Ruth somehow managed to recreate the planetarium from her office. Now she realized the kid was a straight-up genius and started doubting she could handle him. The main girl announced that they had a genius puppy living in their house. They stopped by a tree and Miena pointed up. The main character told Ruth to look as soon as she picked an apple. The girl figured he must have learned all the words. After some quick thinking, the main character came to two conclusions. First, Ruth could perfectly memorize anything he saw just once, and second, he could read and write. But the kid had zero grasp of what the sentences actually meant. It was like it barely registered. Even if Miena asked him to repeat something he already knew, Ruth would freak out and refuse. The main character was sure it had something to do with his trauma. Despite everything, Ruth's speech was pretty good, but he definitely had some communication problems. We need to help him get used to talking to people. It'd be great if the kid could get some practice. Next time they met, Miena asked the guy if he had any friends. Justin shot back, wondering why the Earl's daughter needed to know that. The main character told him to keep going. He didn't have to worry about offending her. He pointed out that just a second ago, she was telling him about her trip. Miena immediately covered her smile with her hand and said she absolutely loved it. But thanks to her dad's kindness, she almost drowned in the lake. Justin was glad to hear that his country house was a hit with the girl's family. She suggested they talk business because that was way more important to her than any gifts. Miena raised an eyebrow when the dude said he was cool with that answer. The letter Miena sent from the cottage laid out her plans going forward. We had to break everything down if we wanted to get the results we wanted. From now on, both empires are going to be boosting sea trade and internal markets. If they hadn't gotten chewed out by the deity, there's no way they would have compromised with the Somnium delegation. Justin smirked and said he was ready to listen to the little miss. Her idea was to open a bank overseas, mostly funded by Linux. The Everdine family owned a bank in Somnium, and the Grand Duke ran it. Linux was still collecting offerings for the temple worldwide, then redistributing the cash to other temples. They took a cut when you exchanged currency, and that fee doubled when they distributed donations. Justin realized if they owned a foreign bank, they wouldn't have to bother with currency exchange. Plus, it'd be sweet to just hand over an order stamped with the Everdine bank seal. Plus, the bank can hand out business development loans, which should make potential clients super happy. But there's a chance the Linux government will bail on the deal and try to make it happen themselves. A business like that needs crazy amounts of cash, so they probably don't have that kind of money in the public treasury. Justin's eyes went wide when Miena dropped the bomb that the Sidus family is also investing in this. He smirked, figuring there was something he wasn't being told yet. The main girl tried to explain, saying it was all totally legally earned money. The guy replied that before jumping into something like this, he really needed to talk it over with his dad. Still, he was pretty sure his old man would be down, since his dad's got a real nose for this stuff. He still had a ton of work to get done, so Justin got up to say his goodbyes. He was totally caught off guard when Miena suddenly stopped him, grabbing his arm. The main character snapped out of it real quick, dropped his hand, and apologized to the dude. Justin smirked and was like, "So, what did the young lady want to say?" She explained she needed to hire someone, but was totally clueless about the whole thing. The guy was gonna offer up his own bodyguard or something, but Miena immediately shut that down. She thanked him for the offer, but explained she needed someone who was hers. Justin got what she was laying down and asked what kind of mercenary she was looking for. First off, they couldn't be working for anyone else, and they had to be discreet and quiet. Plus, they had to follow her orders without question, and ideally, not be a mage. A strong warrior who knows their way around a sword would be perfect. The main character was a little surprised when the guy said he had one condition in return. He told Miel they needed to rethink what was going on between them. Arms crossed, Justin suggested they become friends instead of business partners. This out-of-the-blue proposal totally threw our girl for a loop, but she agreed, although she was dying to know why he'd decided this. Justin just smirked and asked her what she thought the reason was. When she met with Ruth, she told him to remember the world's full of surprises. But honestly, she was glad Justin made the first move to be just friends. Still, she couldn't figure out what had sparked this, and Miel was stumped. He could have made friends any time, but until now, he hadn't even tried. The girl was sure the young Duke Everdine definitely had some hidden agenda. She said she was dying to hear what kind of crazy thoughts were bouncing around in Ruth's head this time. The kid told her that in the end, the puppy met back up with his buddy and finally found some happiness. The main girl ruffled his hair and promised him that everything was gonna be awesome for them. Miena asked him if he really went through the exact same routine every time he woke up. He said in a sad voice, "Yeah, I do. Nobody can ever find out I've changed. You know?" She asked him why, and immediately noticed the kid was getting super worked up about something. So the main girl gave him a big hug and promised him that things would be okay. Miena told him to let her know whenever he felt like he was ready to talk about it. If he could ever share his story with someone else, that would be more than enough. Then she asked him, "Hey, how about we invite another friend to hang out with us?" Out of nowhere, Justin Everdine showed up as a little kid and said hi to Ruth. The main character had dialed back the young Duke's age a bit and totally flipped his personality. She caught herself thinking how weird it was to see Justin smiling like that. Suddenly, the kid Duke vanished, and Ruth got spooked, so he clung to his friend. The main girl explained it was just an illusion, 'cause real people don't just poof out of existence. Noticing the kid's strange reaction, Miena said that Ruth needed to speak up if he wasn't feeling well. But the boy just smiled and said he was fine, 'cause Miena was right there with him now. Miena thought she was ready for anything, but in reality things were totally different. Justin announced that he'd already put together a team to help them research the overseas market. He added that the young lady had made an offer that was too good to pass up. On top of that, the kid already checked out some mercenaries just like Miena asked. The girl shot him a look, 'cause she was starting to think Justin pulled another all-nighter. The young Duke said he managed to find someone who fits exactly what the lady's looking for. Catching Justin's weird expression, Miena asked if something was wrong. It's been about 10 years since he ditched the knightly order and went into merc work, but we haven't heard a peep from him in years. She was sure a smart lord wouldn't bother her with info that useless. Justin figured the girl's ability could help track down this missing guy. The main character facepalmed and snapped, "Why does everyone think I can do this?" But she quickly pulled herself together and asked if there were any other candidates. Truth is, Justin had to bust his butt just to find even one candidate. Miena pointed out he could have just said he came up empty-handed. The young Duke took a sip of tea and said she knows damn well who he is. When Duke Everdine sets his mind to something, he gets it done. Period. But those words didn't exactly wow our girl. Suddenly, it clicked for the young lady and she shot to her feet. Justin smirked, 'cause Miena finally got the picture. It was simple. Miena already knew where this guy was. But Justin chuckled, correcting her, saying he knows where he is. Since Miena wouldn't hire a bodyguard to invest in the project worry-free, it's in the Duke's best interest to help her out. The main character flashed a huge smile, saying Justin gets her even without her saying a word. He froze solid the moment she said that's exactly what she loves about him. Then Justin apologized, explaining he was just lost in thought for a second. The young Duke said hiring this tough guy won't be easy, 'cause he's not motivated by cash. That was exactly what the main character wanted, so she decided to take on the challenge. She confidently stated there's no need to doubt, because she'll get him no matter what it takes. Miena thought it would be smooth sailing, but beggars can't be choosers, right? Since Justin gave her the mercenary's name and where he lived, the main character tried to enter his dream. Seems the dude wasn't too far from her, but he still hadn't gone to sleep yet. So she decided to wait a bit, then try again later. Little did she know, she'd be out cold before he was. Miena's whole plan was to crash his dream and tell him their meeting was destiny. She had no clue why she couldn't find the freaking door to his dream world. Miena looked at her uncle across from her, wondering why he was clutching his chest. There's no way the main character could fall out. This carriage is way too huge. Besides, it was custom-made for Duke Everdine, who's buried in paperwork right now. Miena smirked and asked why he was stuck in the carriage if he was supposed to be swamped. He explained that her dad was too busy to come, so he was tagging along instead. The main character wondered why he was making such a fuss when she had a bunch of knights, but the young Duke said he wasn't someone you could rely on. If some crazy stuff goes down, Miena needs someone around who's gonna prioritize keeping her safe. The main girl was like, "Cut it out! It's kind of funny that the Duke of Everdine's heir is riding in the Sidus carriage." They couldn't hide how close they were, and now everyone knows their families are tight. So yeah, that's definitely public knowledge now, no question. Miena's been getting non-stop invites for tea parties and keeps turning them down. But all this news is no surprise to the young Duke because he already knew everything. The main girl was shocked he knew so much and asked how he keeps up with it all. Miena frowned the second she saw the young Duke start smirking. He explained he just carefully filters the info dump and ignores the useless crap. The Sidus family daughter immediately noticed how impressed her knight was by that. Justin mentioned that if Miena's health allows, she could throw a dinner party herself. He could already suggest who she should invite first. Miena considered that establishing friendly ties with the local aristocracy would positively impact their business. Suddenly, the young Duke declared that the girl needed to learn to hide her emotions. The main character replied that no one except Justin had ever pointed out that she supposedly wears her heart on her sleeve. She crossed her arms, and the young man replied that maybe Miena was right. The girl wondered when she would finally start to understand what was going on in his head. She also didn't understand why that knight had been sitting with that expression on his face for so long. As soon as the carriage stopped, Miena got out of it thinking that a little more and she definitely would have thrown up. Justin was worried about the girl's well-being the whole way and even asked the coachman to drive the carriage as slowly and carefully as possible. Then he held out the thing in his hand, telling her to take it. This motion sickness artifact only works if the main character's holding it. Miena figured she should probably get used to long trips by now, since there'd be plenty more. The main character remembered how even Liu Bei visited Zhuge Liang 3 freaking times. Justin said they better hurry and get out of here before dark. They both froze, totally caught off guard when some dude's voice asked where they thought they were going. Judging by the kids' faces, they definitely belonged to some noble family. Siegfried Russell smirked and asked his esteemed guests what brought them here. Justin Everdine bowed immediately, telling Mr. Russell he was really glad to see him. The merc asked if he was some kind of snitch for the royal family. The main girl could tell that Mr. Russell was clearly not thrilled about their visit. You could feel it, like the dude was radiating pure ice. No matter how many guards they brought, there was no way they could take him. Out of nowhere, Mr. Russell asks if that crazy emperor's trying to pin something on him again. The girl knew they were in deep, so she told Justin to just explain what's going on. But instead, the young Duke just smirks and asks how bad a crime he thinks it must be for him to say that. The main girl face-palmed, wondering if they even stood a chance now. Suddenly, she remembered Justin's words, that her job was to get Mr. Russell to work for them. Now, the young girl realized that the young Duke was doing this on purpose, but Justin just kept pouring gas on the fire, and it was making Miena freak out. That's exactly why she decided to take charge, before things spiraled completely out of control. The main character curtsied and introduced herself as the only daughter of the Sidus family. Suddenly, she felt that stupid cough of hers starting to act up again. Mr. Russell casually remarked, "You can't fool genetics," since the girl looked so much like Diasen. Between coughs, the main character explained they weren't here on the Emperor's orders. She apologized, saying the mountain air was thin, making her cough like crazy. Justin rushed over to the girl and, after touching her forehead, realized she was burning up. The main character was actually surprised she was running a fever. The young Duke freaked out when Miena suddenly passed out and collapsed to the ground. He immediately asked Sir Russell to help carry the girl inside. The main character felt no pain, but she definitely felt death breathing down her neck. Miena ended up back in the dream and calmed down because she was just scared out of her mind. She immediately got pissed that Justin dumped everything on her. Friends don't do that. Still, Miena clearly remembered Duke Everdine looking really worried before she blacked out. He never lost his cool, not even when he was talking to Siegfried. The main character resigned herself to the idea, telling Justin to just make up his damn mind already. So, Miena decided to try and do what the dragon asked and check this place out. The main character instantly and easily conjured up a blank sheet of paper and a pen. She quickly scribbled a message, folded the paper into a plane, and sent it off. The only thing left for the girl to do now was just wander through the dreams. The second she saw that door crack open, she knew her luck was changing. Stepping inside, the main character immediately spotted a guy and a girl. The Cetus family's one and only daughter looked around and figured, wow, this place is stunning. She instantly recognized Siegfried, who told the girl he had something seriously important to say. The guy was decked out in royal guard gear, saying he wasn't kidding around this time. The beautiful blonde girl just smirked and said, "You always say that, then you start spouting nonsense." He did it all the time, but that quirk of his was kind of endearing to the stranger. The main character was totally caught off guard when the guy called the girl Victoria. Young Siegfried gently touched Victoria's hand and gave it a kiss. Then, he dropped to one knee and asked the young lady to run away with him. Siegfried wanted to send us somewhere nobody could bother us, somewhere nobody would dare separate us. The main girl slowly opened her eyes the moment she heard someone calling her name. Sitting across from her was the young Duke, who told her the doctor would be here soon. He started to say something else, but the main girl cut him off. She didn't want him making noise right now. The girl was super stoked when she found out they managed to get through this without a stabbing. Justin asked her to take the medicine, saying it was guaranteed to make Mien feel better. She looked at the young Duke suspiciously and asked him where he got it from. Mr. Russell walked into the room and announced that he was the one who provided the medicine. He walked over to the couch and apologized to the girl for jumping to conclusions. The man asked, clearly annoyed, if Mien's father knew she'd traveled all this way here. Then Mr. Russell added that while he was flattered by the girl's offer, he had to decline. The main character tried to explain that it wouldn't take long, maybe even less than a year. But the young Duke Everdine said, looking annoyed, that they didn't know that for sure. Mr. Russell said it'd be better if the kids saw everything for themselves and stopped asking questions. He led them into a room, and Miena immediately caught a scent she knew all too well. Mr. Russell gestured for her to be quiet, and the main character realized it smelled like death. Then Miena saw the beautiful woman, the one named Victoria. The man asked the kids not to tell anyone that they saw his wife in that condition. Miena instantly understood. She couldn't find Siegfried's dream because it was called something else. The mercenary told his wife that they had guests today, the ones he didn't accidentally kill. Another second and he would have hurt those kids, and they definitely didn't deserve that. He let me know that Victoria, well, she's probably not ready to roll out the welcome mat just yet. Now, this guy was sure he didn't have to explain anything else. Siegfried couldn't just leave, so he felt bad the kids wasted their time. The main character apologized to Mr. Russell for showing up so unexpectedly. Miena decided not to push it and just ordered a small house to be built near the dragon's lair. But suddenly, Justin raised his hand and said there was something he was really curious about. He wanted to know what the man would do once his wife passed on. The main character tried to stop her friend, but he said he wasn't that sensitive. Mr. Russell remembered perfectly when they'd gone to see the flowers together just recently. The doc who saw her last month said she had like a week left, but Victoria's been hanging on for a month now. The guy started hoping again for a bright, happy future with his wife, but deep down, he knew a miracle wasn't gonna happen. The young Duke totally lost it the second the guy said he'd answer his question. He made his wife a promise and he's gonna keep it, no matter what. The main girl was touched, 'cause she knew you never break a promise to someone you love. She grabbed the young Duke's arm and told him they were leaving. Miena immediately apologized for wasting the guy's precious time. Seeing Justin's face all red, she started figuring out why he'd put off his work. Suddenly, it hit the main girl, a scary thought that sent chills down her spine. She asked if he was planning on following his wife. Seeing the smile on Mr. Russell's face, the main character blurted out, telling him not to do it. But the guy just calmly said she didn't know anything, didn't understand. The main character was worried Sir Russell wouldn't be able to keep her secret. She told him Victoria definitely wouldn't want him to do that to himself, because life was the most precious gift anyone could have. The man immediately frowned and asked how the heck she knew that. The main character was scared, but she remembered perfectly how Siegfried had asked his beloved to run away with him. That's why she told the guy she could travel through dreams. The young Duke Everdine immediately yelled for Miena to stop and not tell her secret. The guy huffed huffed, annoyed, and said this wasn't the time for jokes. But the main girl, totally confident, just told him she wasn't kidding around. Russell figured she was serious and told her Victoria had made him a promise in a dream too. The guy asked if that didn't mean she wanted to be with him too. Miena shot back that she definitely didn't think that's what it meant at all. Since he refused to believe her, she told him he'd just have to see for himself. She was gonna visit Victoria's dream again, but if he blabbed about it, he'd be in deep trouble. Miena ordered the guys not to touch her while she was out, 'cause she was a light sleeper. She also told him not to sweat it, because she wasn't planning on lying to him. If it turned out Victoria really did want to die with Siegfried, she wouldn't be able to cover it up. Honestly, the dude was completely lost. What the hell was going on? Justin gave Miena the once-over and said the sun was probably in her eyes, but she told him to shut it. The second the main girl dozed off, the young duke held his hand up to block the sun from Miena's face. Lord Siegfried turned his head and caught the whole scene. He asked the young duke if his arm wasn't getting tired yet. Justin whispered to keep it down, but the guy just calmly said the girl was out like a light. Truth be told, Lord Russell was taken aback by such genuine devotion. Justin's eyes went wide as soon as the man asked if she was his fiancée. He said she was just a friend and business partner, but the guy said it looked like he was chasing after her. The young duke smiled warmly and said she deserved it because Lady Sidus's health was so fragile. Out of nowhere, the guy drops that he and Victoria are actually kinda similar. Justin figures that's what Miena thought too, which is why she decided to help out. The young duke totally gets that the lady's probably being eaten up by guilt and obligation. Miena just puts on this happy face, but she's got so much energy, she can't sit still. He wanted to give her that cottage as a friend, but she turned him down. No way he's giving up, though. The guy's eyes went wide as saucers the second he saw Justin's face turning red. The main girl knows all too well that leaving the person you love is agonizing. There she was again, standing in front of the lovers while Mr. Russell was asking the girl to run away with him. He wanted to escape to a place where no one would dare tear them apart, even if that place turned out to be hell. Victoria's tears just kept flowing, and she kept refusing everything the guy was saying. Out of nowhere, Miena says hi and tells her that her husband's about to make a huge decision. That's why the main girl showed up to play carrier pigeon. Miena tells Victoria that she was the one who contacted her man, Siegfried Russell. She says, worried, that he's not the type to let people who know his name just walk away. But she's positive he'd never hurt any kids. Now that the guests know his name, the guy's gotta figure they came to grab him. Miena admits that's kinda true, but her partner just happens to be from the Everdine family. Victoria reveals that Siegfried always worried His Majesty would break his promise and arrest him again. Now the main character understands why Sir Russell and Victoria changed their names. Those two left Siegfried and Victoria behind for a future together. Out of nowhere, the woman drops the bomb that Peter is her husband's new name. Then she brings up that the girl's trying to stop Peter from doing something. Victoria gets right up in Miena's face and asks why she'd go this far. The lady immediately gets all flustered, saying it's totally not a loaded question. She admits that when she heard the story, she figured the lady had just met Peter. Miena explained about her powers that let her save people, so she couldn't just sit back. Bottom line, she just couldn't walk away from someone who needed the help. The main character admits she actually feels bad, not for Sir Russell, but for the lady herself. Miena asks if Victoria doesn't find it a little weird that a stranger just shows up out of the blue. The blonde woman smiles and confesses that her imagination's pretty much shot. If she hadn't seen something in real life, there's no way she could have imagined it. Watching the same scene over and over, Victoria felt this weird disconnect and figured she was dreaming. She knew perfectly well that Siegfried was, by nature, super naive. He doesn't think he's always right, but he always sticks to his guns, not even realizing how dumb it is. The main character realized that this was exactly like her parents. Of course, that's exactly what Victoria likes about him, but she regretted that fateful conversation. She knew that promising to be with her even after death would tie the guy's hands, which is exactly what happened. The main character touched the woman's hand and asked her not to worry. Miena promised that she'd definitely tell him that the woman doesn't want him to die because of her. Victoria added that the girl absolutely had to tell him she'd come back from the dead and kill him, and then he'd believe it. This lady also wants me to tell her husband to clean himself up already. He looks like a freaking bandit. Victoria really wished Siegfried would just take off on a trip and see the whole world. Or, you know, the guy could go back to the Imperial Guard without worrying about getting arrested or shamed. The woman thanked the girl, saying she and Peter were super lucky to have her show up. Now Victoria wasn't scared at all about kicking the bucket, but she didn't want to die, and Miena totally got it, 'cause she didn't want to lose her loved ones either. Victoria started bawling, asking why she had to go now, of all times. She couldn't stop the tears and kept repeating that she really, really wanted to live. The main character sadly watched her and thought about how she didn't want to die either. But Miena knew damn well it was gonna happen, because miracles just ain't a thing. Victoria smiled, telling the girl that he didn't need to know about it. The main character promised that this conversation would stay just between them, for the sake of those who'd live on. In the end, Miena relayed everything Victoria asked her to tell Siegfried. The guy burst out laughing because his beloved wife promised to kill him if he offed himself. The main character also said that the lady wanted him to enjoy his freedom. Every moment with him was a dream, happiness, and the meaning of life for Victoria. She was endlessly grateful to him for showing her what love was. The young duke was a little surprised that Miena was actually leaving, but the girl replied that she shouldn't overstay her welcome, so she'd ask her father for help now. But in reality, the main character was really bummed, 'cause she'd failed and lost the treasures. Out of the blue, Justin tells Lady Citus there's nothing to worry about. A slight smile creeps onto the young duke's face as he says the guy will definitely be back for Miena. A week later, something totally unexpected happens. Siegfried Russell shows up at the heroine's place. Miena's instantly stunned the second she opens the door and sees him standing there. First off, the guy wants to express his gratitude to the little lady. He smirks and adds he just didn't have time for it last time. The man reaches out his hand, saying that thanks to Miena, he and Victoria were able to let go of each other with a smile. Mr. Russell was genuinely grateful and owed Lady Citus a huge debt. The heroine reaches out her hand in return, because she's also glad she could help. But Miena says he could have just sent a thank you note for crying out loud. She suggested Sir Russell meet her folks since he was already in town. But he told Lady Citus he came all this way specifically to see her. He wondered if that offer he turned down before was still on the table. The guy smirked and added that's why he rushed over here like a bat out of hell. Siegfried had wasted way too much time getting his head straight. Victoria was tired of him being all gloomy, so he decided to change things up. The main girl started nodding, 'cause she totally agreed with him. Besides, Siegfried was sure this was a pretty urgent matter. Before meeting up with Emperor Linux, it'd be smart to snag that dragon's hoard. He was doing it for his girl, so Lady Citus shouldn't feel like she owes him anything. The main character smiled, saying she'd be thrilled to work with him. Miena warned Sir Russell that whatever he heard from her old man, this job wouldn't be a walk in the park. As soon as the guy nodded, the main character decided to jump right into salary talk. She froze when Sir Russell announced he didn't need the money. The man said Lady Citus's expression alone was worth the price of admission, but he added that he seriously wasn't taking any cash. The main character definitely wanted to find someone who wasn't a money grubber. She wondered, was this guy turning down material wealth for some philosophical reason? Mr. Russell raised a hand and asked her to consider it a matter of honor. He assured Lady Citus that he would take his work incredibly seriously. Besides, she's still gonna set him up with a place to live, clothes, and weapons, and that's all he really needs. Miena decided to give him this one, but then stick a note in her will to get him caught up on back pay. Siegfried and his parents-in-law exchanged some seriously warm greetings. While talking to Miena's dad, he had a hell of a time explaining why he was even there. The main character was wondering if she should slowly start revealing her powers. She told Ruth about the lake and suggested they go check it out up close. A huge, happy smile instantly spread across the little boy's face. Suddenly, Leonard Butler popped up in front of them, greeting the young couple. Ruth froze solid and stared at the guy with pure terror in his eyes. Miena, with a warm smile, told Ruth that he needed to say hello to the stranger. Girl couldn't help but notice how freaked out the kid was acting. She started to worry, asking Ruth what the hell was wrong with him. Miena tried to calm him down, saying the creepy old dude was gone. The main character gave him a big hug and told him everything was gonna be all right. Root apologized to his friend too, saying he never reacted like that before. But just because someone's scared of something doesn't mean they did anything wrong. They went back to the lake, and Miena told Root to be careful and not get too close to the water. The kid was stoked, saying how beautiful and blue the water looked. Then Root turned to Miena and added that the color was just like her eyes. The girl immediately smiled and patted Root on the head. The kid was blown away that the shades of one color could be so different. Ruth asked Miena if his hands would turn blue too if he dipped them in the lake. But the kid leaned too far and ended up taking a dive. Smirking, the main girl told the goofball to get up, cause it was safety lesson time. Miena was stoked that she and Ruth had gotten so much done today. Next time, the main girl decided to invite her imaginary friends to a picnic. But she couldn't shake that one incident, because she was sure it wasn't just stranger danger. The main girl asked Sir Russell if she could borrow his face. The guy smiled and said the lady could just call him Zig. Miena explained she wanted to introduce the man to her friend. The main character just dropped that this estate is one of the Everdine family's villas. Truth is, she's here because she and Justin decided to take care of her dad. After that whole Russell thing, Miena's dad got hit with a business ban, so there was no other choice. The main character stepped out of the carriage and declared that Sir Russell is seriously talented. He was one of the strongest knights in the guard, and he even knew first aid thanks to his sick wife. Miena added that she probably wouldn't be where she is today if it weren't for Sir Russell. After a while, the main character frowned, realizing she was on her own. Sir Siegfried took off saying he was gonna crash, but the door never showed up. Ruth was also somewhere far away, because the paper airplane didn't make it. Suddenly, the main character had a new idea, and she launched the paper airplane again. She figured her abilities range must have gotten bigger. Or maybe the dragon's lair was just right next to the Everdine family's mansion. Miena jumped when the dragon asked why she was only showing up now. He said his patience wasn't endless, and she better understand that he was pissed. The main character tried to calm her racing heart and asked what he was doing here. The dragon casually replied that he was waiting for her and almost chewed on something. Miena smirked and told him he must be a vegetarian. Suddenly, the girl wondered what dragons even eat and if they were predators at all. The guy decided, before waiting for her to get into the groove, he'd better just do this. Before falling asleep, he'd chatted with people and helped them get what they wanted in exchange for good intel. So, if a dragon gave someone a little bit of power, he knew exactly what they were feeling. He totally got that the little girl was burning up with curiosity right now. Miena said, all flustered, that she was glad the dragon understood how she felt. The main character said that she'd tried to find Yggdrasil, like he asked, but no dice. Miena was about to say her body couldn't handle it, but the dragon cut her off, saying it didn't matter. As long as he was personally looking after her, she had nothing to fear from death. It was obvious she'd find it faster than the guy who'd spent countless years looking. Honestly, she thought he was kidding because she could kick the bucket any second. Miena asked if the dragon had been chewing on twigs, waiting for her to show up. He replied that after all this time, he finally had someone who managed to pique his interest. So, the main character just said she finally found someone she can actually rely on. But the dragon dude was like, that ain't gonna cut it if you want all my treasure. He explained that, after all these years, he's amassed a ton of shiny stuff. If the dragon remembered right, the treasure room was like 10 times bigger than this room. The main girl's eyes went wide because she couldn't even picture that much. The guy didn't know anything about human prices, so he told her to figure it out herself. She asked him to draw a map because she didn't want to wake him up by wandering into the wrong place. The dragon told her she wouldn't need a map because he wouldn't mind where she went. Still, the main character couldn't let Sir Russell get into any danger. Miena smiled and said she really hoped that someday he'd see her partner as worthy. The dragon smirked and dared her to find out if that was true. Right then and there, the main character felt a massive earthquake. Then rocks started raining down from the ceiling, and Miena had no clue what was going on. The dragon never thought he'd do something like this for some random human, but she was definitely interesting. Miena couldn't believe the dragon had woken up on his own. She didn't think she'd wake up with him, but I guess dragons were capable of anything. The main character reminded herself that false hope only leads to disappointment. Miena really wished she could wander around a little longer. She screamed in terror when Lord Russell suddenly asked where she thought she was going. Lady Sidis grumbled, telling the man not to scare her like that again. He said he heard footsteps on the roof and they sounded way too much like a lady's. If anything happens to that girl, her parents will straight up murder Lord Russell. The main girl explained that she just had a nightmare and couldn't get back to sleep. Miena realized that maybe it was time to tell him the real reason for this trip. A little late, but she told the guy they weren't here for some vacation or fun and games. This estate was just like a pit stop between home and their final destination. The main girl jumped when thunder boomed and lightning flashed across the sky. Lord Russell immediately demanded that the girl hide behind him right now. Suddenly, a massive black dragon appeared right in front of them, totally shocking our heroes. The deep growl was like rolling thunder, and its predatory gaze and huge wings screamed wyvern. Sir Russell told the lady to haul ass back to the estate and warn the staff to evacuate. But she was positive that wyvern was definitely sent by the Dragon Lord. Plus, the main character was wiped out from her walk and couldn't run for crap. Suddenly, the wyvern's face went from all serious to super happy. It face-planted on the ground and our heroes just stared at it, confused. The main character walked up to it and told the guy that her friend sent the wyvern. Out of nowhere, Lady Sidis noticed a weird object on the creature and got curious. She instantly heard the Dragon Lord's voice coming from the stone. The guy cast a spell on this little one's back, so no worries about falling and dying. Oh, and the Dragon Lord also said not to forget to give the little dude a name. This was like hailing a cab, which was super convenient for our girl. She glanced at Mr. Russell and realized she had a bit of a situation brewing. The guy asked her, all suspicious, what exactly she does in her dreams. It's no big deal if Sir Russell finds out, but other people could make things complicated, because the location of the dragon's hoard, and even its existence, needs to stay on the DL. Our lead couldn't even imagine the crapstorm if the nobles got wind of it. The guy grilled Miena, wanting to know if her parents were clued into her dream hustle. She shook her head, explaining that's exactly why she begged him to keep her power a secret. Mr. Russell asked when she planned to tell them, and she said, "Right before I die." Now the guy got what was up and what Lady Sidis was really playing at. He turned around and said he'd be the one telling the girl's parents everything. The main character totally freaked out and begged him to stop. She grabbed his arm, yelling that the wyvern was enchanted and posed absolutely no threat. Safe or not, the guy still had no clue what she was planning. Miena revealed she needed to find money because her family was about to go bankrupt. He asked, skeptical, why a little kid was even worrying about money, and the main character replied that her family was barely scraping by because of her. Her parents didn't just blow through their savings, they took out loans they couldn't pay back. Every aristocrat knew the situation the Sidis family was in. Her parents had bet it all trying to cure an incurable disease. Thing is, every day it just gets worse, and there's no fixing it. Miena's folks had to beg creditors for mercy, all for a kid with zero chance of getting better. If she wasn't sick, her parents would be living large, not sweating over bills. That's why our girl couldn't just lie in bed and pretend nothing was happening. Mr. Russell knelt down, saying he didn't get why she was blaming herself. Miena didn't choose to be sick, and she never begged her parents to cure her. But she told him she had a shot at paying back that money, and she was taking it. As long as Miena could move, she'd do everything in her power. She'd be lying if she said any of this was easy, but she was still stoked she could do something, anything, for the people she loved. Once Miena gets what she wants, she'll chill out and travel with her family. The guy caved and said all right, he wouldn't push the girl anymore. But he promised that at the first sign of trouble, he's bringing her home. If he even thinks something's up with Miena, he's hopping on this wyvern and they're hauling ass back to the estate. But the heroine shot back, saying if Richard III gets spotted by the estate workers, he's screwed. She climbed onto the wyvern's back and told it to take off, 'cause they had to be back before dawn. Richard III immediately took to the skies and headed for the dragon's lair. The main girl pointed out that this place looked like the Heim mountain range. Mr. Russell chimed in that they were almost there and this wyvern was seriously fast. As soon as Richard III landed, the man declared he needed to practice that maneuver some more. Still, the main character was pretty sure Mr. Russell had enjoyed the flight. Seriously, she'd never seen a castle like this before. There's no way people didn't know about it. Because this castle was smack dab in the middle of the mountain range, getting close was next to impossible. Suddenly, Miena told the guy that only her safety was guaranteed here, and he better stick with her. Siegfried immediately panicked, saying she was the one who brought him to this creepy place, and now she says, "This?" The castle door swung wide open, and the main character knew it was time to look around. The guy whispered, asking if Lady Sidus even knew where they were going. The main character peeked into one of the rooms and said it had to be somewhere around here. As soon as they spotted the treasure, the girl happily announced that they were in the right place. She then eagerly asked Sir Russell to help her haul all this treasure out of here. Seriously, the main character had never seen this much cash in her entire life. Then she found the map she'd asked the dragon dude to draw for her earlier. All of a sudden, Miena's eyes locked onto some writing she couldn't make out. She told her partner that he better not go into the room marked on the map. As soon as they stepped into the next room, the young guy froze, jaw dropped. He dropped the bags of jewels and asked in disbelief, "What the hell is going on here?" The main character grinned and said they'd need a few trips to haul all this treasure away. And as soon as they got back to the estate, they'd have to find a place to stash the loot. Suddenly, Siegfried blurted out he was rethinking his decision to refuse a salary as soon as they got back. The main character smirked slyly because she never thought she'd be doing anything like this. Then she told Sir Russell she needed to go somewhere alone. The guy scooped up Lady Sidus like it was nothing and asked if going alone was safe. But Miena told him he should head back to the castle entrance. That's where it'd be safest. A little while later, the main character was standing in front of this massive door, thinking it looked kinda creepy. She carefully opened the door and apologized for disturbing anyone. Right then and there, the main character saw a gigantic black dragon in front of her. Miena couldn't take it all in, not just because of his size, but because of how majestic he was. The main character froze solid the second she felt the dragon's breath on her back. It was a straight-up miracle he hadn't wiped out humanity yet. She screamed as soon as the dragon dude asked if she finally grasped the magnificence of his body. "Dude, even kids who know me get freaked out by my look." Whoa, the main girl's totally shocked when she realizes the dragon dude is see-through. He's like, "I can't fully wake up yet, but I can pop out of my body for a second." Miena tells him, "Thanks to you, my family's back to being loaded." The dragon guy smirks and asks, "So, my collection's worth that much, huh?" She nods, adding, "I'm seriously grateful for your generosity." Suddenly, the dragon is like, "Reality's way more messed up than that." He points at her and explains, "I'm talking about the power running through your veins with your blood. Any minute now, you're gonna blow. I don't get how you're even walking around like that." The main girl smiles and says, "I pop painkillers all the time, so I'm good." She promised herself she'd crash hard the second she got home. The dragon gave a warm smile and told the girl to hang in there until he could rescue her. Miena clenched her fists and demanded to know why he couldn't help her right now. The spell he'd cast on Richard III was terrifyingly powerful. If the guy's powers were that huge, he could easily heal the kid. But he asked Miena if she even knew what kind of spell he used on the wyvern. The main character paused, asking, "Wasn't it just a combo of different spells?" The Dragon Lord replied, saying she was wrong. It was wish magic. It works like an order, so he ordered the wyvern to keep the kid safe. Wish magic's simple, but it comes with seriously strict limits. You can't force someone to grant a wish with more power than the caster has. The only thing that can control the power inside Miena is the Dragon Lord's heart. He wouldn't die from losing his heart, but he couldn't give it up until he wakes up. Last time he thought he figured out his feelings, so now he wanted to see a will to live in the kid. Then the guy asked the girl to take care of herself until he wakes up and to visit him early. The main character asked the Dragon Lord when he thought he'd be able to wake up. His unconsciousness was slowly fading away, so it shouldn't take too long. He put a simple spell on Miena so she shouldn't die from exposure to the elements. The main character really owed the Dragon Lord a huge debt. Miena and Sir Russell safely returned to the estate in a carriage loaded with riches. Right away, Mr. Russell admitted he really missed this place. Before he could kick back and relax, he had to move the treasure to the estate. Once Mr. Russell had done everything she asked, he wanted to know what was next. Now, all they could do was hope things went smoothly. Late that night, our girl just couldn't fall asleep. She was thinking about how to get into Luke's dreams and dozed off in the carriage. At times like this, nothing beat a nighttime stroll, so Miena headed downstairs. She was surprised Siegfried was asleep. She figured he'd be coming to get her. She figured selling off all that treasure must be pretty exhausting. Her dad was unusually quiet today, so he must be keeping his promise to accept what's happening. Out of nowhere, a voice wanted to know what he was doing up so late. The main character overheard her dad and Mr. Russell talking through the slightly open door. Thinking about everything that happened today completely killed his desire to sleep. Diason offered him a drink, but Siegfried turned it down, saying he had to watch over Miena. Honestly, the main character was finding this whole situation pretty weird. Her father asked what huge adventure he and his daughter had gotten into today. Siegfried replied that it was an exaggeration, because it was just a trip to the resort. Diason knew perfectly well that Miena was hiding something, but she didn't want to talk about it. But Mr. Russell wondered why he wouldn't stop his daughter if he thought it was so strange. The aristocrat then asked the other man what he saw when he looked into Miena's eyes. Personally, all he saw in their eyes was curiosity and excitement, but it was hard to believe she was still so full of life. It wasn't long ago that girl looked like a corpse, staring like she was begging him to stop the treatment and just let her die. He couldn't figure out why Diason wasn't forcing his sick kid to rest, letting her do whatever she wants. But he did it because he didn't want to steal the precious little time she had left. Miena always acted mature, even when she was in agonizing pain, but she never complained. That girl was suffering more than any of them, so the man couldn't deny her the things she wanted. He wanted to create the most comfortable situation possible for Miena, especially after realizing how selfish they'd been for years. If Miena found something that brought her peace, her parents would be thrilled. That's exactly why they decided to let their daughter do her own thing. The main character relayed this whole conversation to the young Duke Everdine. Justin gave Miena a puzzled look, asking what was up with her eyes. She explained it was just the after effects of a late-night snack. No big deal. The young Duke said he'd already sorted through the goods sent to her, so she should have enough funds now. Then he asked if the lady planned on revealing the source of all this wealth. The aristocrats are definitely going to be curious about a treasure story that came out of nowhere. Not long ago, they got a report about a weird incident, specifically lightning striking near the villa. The main character smirked and replied that it was a surprise for her too. She added that sometimes stuff just happens, so lightning on a clear day is totally possible. Miena was sure Justin was testing her right now, but she didn't get why he was giving her such a hard time. Finally, the main character gave in and admitted she really was trying to be discreet. Justin said that, according to legend, lightning strikes mean a wyvern's about to show up. As soon as the young lord asked if it was safe, the girl was all, "Totally." The main character said if he took Richard III for a spin, he'd get the picture. She wanted to keep it quiet, but now she figured it wouldn't be a big deal if Justin knew. Noticing the young Duke's weird face, Miena asked if he was running into trouble. Justin confessed there was actually one thing he needed to drag Lady Sidus into. The young Duke explained that High Priest Linux wanted to meet with her. The main character's eyes went wide cause she totally wasn't expecting that. Linux was infamous for his scammy schemes disguised as prophecies. If they found out about Miena's abilities, this wasn't just a problem, it was a total freaking disaster. Okay, so the main character already knew she was a goner, but she wanted to stick around a little longer. But Justin shot back, saying it didn't seem like they'd figured out anything about the plans. The young Duke vowed that even if they suspected something, he'd definitely take care of it. Miena perked up a little, relieved that at least they wouldn't die together. Nobody knew about their meetups, or that the two of them were planning to open a bank overseas. They didn't tell Justin why the High Priest was trying to hook up with Lady Sidus. Nobody had a clue how the High Priest even knew the main character existed. The young Duke's face got all worked up the second Miena said she was in. Justin then announced that, in that case, she'd also be meeting with the Emperor. The main character smiled, because she was sure the young Duke had her back. He froze, staring at her smile, and vowed he'd do everything to make her comfortable. Honestly, Miena was just glad to finally have a reliable ally on her side. That day, the main character had no idea what this meeting would lead to. She smoothed out her dress and announced that the Earl Sidus's daughter had arrived. Miena never expected this meeting to forge such a strong bond. The day before her visit to the Imperial Palace, the main character was pissed. Before meeting the High Priest, she hoped to enter his dream and learn something useful. But against all her expectations and plans, Lady Sidus failed completely. She was bummed, even though she knew things never go perfectly. The fact that the paper airplane didn't fly an inch could only mean the High Priest was awake. All of a sudden, Ruth reached out and touched Miena's hair, telling her not to be upset. He explained that it made him feel better when she did that. The main character hugged the little boy tight and thanked him for being so supportive. Miena decided, no matter what, she was gonna win the High Priest over to her side. A little while later, the lady was standing in front of the guy, curtsying politely. He remarked that if he'd known she was so young, he would have had some sweets ready for her. Then the man asked Lady Sidus to raise her head, and she was surprised by his formal address. The man was addressing a kid from a family he didn't know, so the formalities seemed unnecessary. But he replied that welcoming a guest while looking like this was pretty awkward. The High Priest got up from his seat and, with a tired voice, asked the girl to sit down. The main character's jaw dropped. This dude was seriously sick. He thanked Lady Sidus for accepting his invitation. Miena, sounding totally bewildered, admitted she was pretty surprised to get the invite. The guy said it seemed to him that Lady Sidus was pretty tight with Duke Everdine. Actually, the High Priest was worried if Justin would even pass on his request. The main character politely asked the guy to explain why she'd been invited there. The priest smirked and said, of course he'd get to that. He'd run a little test and figured out the girl's body was protected by a spell. The man promised he wouldn't hurt the girl and said they could get down to business now. A defensive spell that didn't even break from such a powerful magic attack. The main character was stunned. This guy just promised he wouldn't hurt her. The priest crossed his arms and asked if they should talk about why Lady Sidus was invited. Miena choked down the lump in her throat because she was actually terrified. The man revealed that he can actually see the pasts of the people around him. The main character froze up instantly and asked if the priest was sure she needed to know this. He exposed that he'd learned one of Miena's secrets, so he decided to share one of his. The girl tensed up because she didn't want to die so young. The man smirked and announced that Milady is a contractor of a higher being. At that very moment, the main character breathed a sigh of relief. Even the High Priest's abilities weren't enough to break the girl's protective spell. His powers only didn't work on the direct descendants of Somnium's first emperor, the one who made a deal with the dragon. The magical power trapped inside Miena's body was no different than that of a regular person, which meant the girl had made a contract with a higher being. The High Priest's abilities let him see the past of anyone he made contact with. The guy admitted he actually caught a glimpse of Duke Everdine's past, specifically how Miena cured the young Duke's insomnia, which had been torturing him non-stop. He mentioned he hadn't slept properly for ages, though that was pretty obvious. Even when the guy managed to fall asleep, he'd wake up just moments later. The High Priest didn't have the slightest clue what he was even dreaming about. Since all he felt after waking up was a nasty feeling deep inside, he started fearing sleep itself. The guy looked at Miena, hope in his voice, and asked if she could help him out. He promised her he definitely wouldn't leave her empty-handed if she lent him a hand. The main character's eyes lit up like Christmas trees the second the High Priest promised to grant her a wish. Since his problem was similar to Justin's, Lady Sidus might be able to give him a shot. You just couldn't pass up an offer like that, so Miena told him to put his trust in her. She thought to herself, hang tight, Justin. Just a little longer, and I'll open a bank overseas. Who would have guessed you could find a sleeping pill recipe in a Dragon Lord's treasure hoard? But the main character was running out of time because the guy could develop an immunity to the sleeping pills. She had to cure his insomnia without him ever finding out she'd been in his dream. The second the main character opened the door, she immediately spotted a stranger lunging to attack. Lady Sidious was frozen, totally clueless about what was going on. One of the guys shielded his buddy, yelling at Ragnar to get down. Then he shoved him with everything he had, and the other dude started falling off the cliff. He stared at his master in horror, not believing he'd do something like that. The main character realized he was waking up because the guy's mind couldn't handle what was happening in the dream. Mien managed to jump out at the last second, and the huge door slammed shut. Still, she finally understood what was going on with the high priest. Looks like this guy was important to the high priest, but he attacked his friend for some reason. The main character was determined. She had to find out what really happened. She was stunned when the high priest said he couldn't remember what he was dreaming about. Thing is, the guy had a vague memory of someone tailing him. Archpriest Eden III thanked the girl. Her sleep aid had at least jogged his memory. Usually, even if Miena didn't see herself in the dream, she still remembered what went down. Maybe this nightmare was so brutal, the Archpriest's subconscious was just wiping the slate clean. If that's the case, our girl can't help him like she did with Justin before. The Archpriest's gotta fight this himself, but Miena had no clue how to tell him that. Eden III hadn't had a decent night's sleep in ages, but he was still smiling through the pain. Miena was dying to tell him what she'd witnessed in that dream. Suddenly, it hit her. She told him she'd been distracted by something near him. Miena lied, saying she had a little ability to see objects floating around people with low energy. These were things buried deep down in people's subconscious. The guy was blown away, said he didn't even know that power was a thing. The main girl told the high priest she could see a few people hanging around him. On his left was a dude with dark hair and blue eyes, but they looked kinda dead. And on the right, she saw a man with platinum hair and a scar on his left cheek. The guys in white robes next to the high priest were the most obvious. The main character paused for a second and checked out His Holiness's stunned face. The brightest figure was a middle-aged man with neatly styled light hair and a small scar on his eyebrow. She said she hadn't planned on spilling the beans about her power, but changed her mind. From what she could see, these people were somehow linked to the high priest's nightmares. Miena's help wasn't gonna cut it, so the guy had to face his trauma himself. If Lord Eden III wanted to, he could talk things over with Lady Sidus. I mean, they already knew each other's dirty little secrets anyway. The guy agreed and said he'd spill his guts to the girl. Eden III, back when he was a kid named Ragnar, was an orphan who clawed his way to the top thanks to his insane skills. Even before he became a high priest, people were already betting on him becoming the Holy Father, and they were green with envy. These were all the people who were around Ragnar back in the day. One day, he told his buddies their mission was to wipe out a cult worshipping some demon. The report said it was just a small group, so that many priests should be enough. Suddenly, the priests started screaming and the master shoved Ragnar. The cultists tried to off the high priest, but the master protected him. Ragnar's teacher, the guy who raised him, got killed cause jealous punks lied in their report. The high priest tumbled off a small cliff and hid under an overhang waiting for backup. His teacher didn't make a peep, but Ragnar heard his body getting ripped to shreds. That story wasn't for a kid, but the guy felt better after telling it to the girl. The main girl gave him a warm smile as soon as the guy thanked her from the bottom of his heart. After a bit, Miena was already out cold, waiting for the high priest to fall asleep. Her plan was to jump right into his dream the second he drifted off. The high priest's nightmares are fueled by his guilt, and every night he relives awful memories. The main girl was sure His Holiness blamed himself for the master's death. All of a sudden, this massive door popped up right in front of Lady Sidus. She wasn't sure if she could actually ease the high priest's guilt. But hey, you never know unless you try, right? And Miena wasn't about to let this guy's dream turn into a total nightmare. If Lady Sidus was Ragnar's teacher, there's no way she'd let him drown in all that guilt. She shifted into her master form and noticed the place looked exactly like it did last time. Guess getting stuff off his chest didn't exactly help His Holiness. The main character decided to hang back and wait for the right moment. Just when things were about to go south, Miena froze time and told Ragnar to just let go of the guilt. He was just making himself suffer, clinging to those old memories. The guy shot back that he couldn't just get over it, 'cause way too many people died because of him. This is way too heavy a burden, especially since those people would still be alive if it weren't for Ragnar. Miena put her hand on the high priest's shoulder and asked Ragnar to look at her. Through the master's body, she asked if the guy really didn't get why he was pushed off that cliff, why he didn't even make a sound when he was run through with a sword. Ragnar's so stuck in his guilt, he's even stopped respecting his master's decision. The main girl asked who Ragnar was even holding on to right now. His holiness needed those words more than anything, but he never heard them. The master went down on one knee and said he didn't regret saving Ragnar, not one bit. The main girl, like someone about to die, was telling the high priest about it for them. The guy with the glasses said that they didn't die because of Ragnar's fault. Miena already died once, so she always wanted to leave something behind. Turns out, His Holiness's dream wasn't some total nightmare. She was worried about the guy, like a teacher waiting for their students' exam scores. Miena wasn't expecting much progress in one night, but she was floored when she walked into the office. The high priest smiled and said in a cheerful voice that he'd been expecting her. The main character was instantly happy, and the man asked her to take a seat. Miena immediately noticed that the high priest looked way better today. He asked if Lady Sidus had been negotiating trade with the young Duke Everdine. Justin's terms weren't good enough for him, but the high priest knew they wouldn't leave him alone. At least Eden III won't come back empty-handed, so the negotiations can end with that. The guy grinned and suggested Lady Sidus cut right to the chase. Your medicine worked wonders, milady, 'cause the high priest remembers his dream clear as day. He told her she'd really helped him out with this whole mess. Eden III finally feels like he's broken free from this nightmare. Honestly, she was sweating bullets, but it all worked out perfectly. The high priest said he shared the sleeping pill with other priests, but it didn't do anything for them. Confused, she explained that the medicine's kinda unique and might not work on everyone. Eden III mused that his teacher was famous for cursing up a storm in the temple. He'd be screaming to know where the kid got that damn medicine. The number of swear words he could pack into one sentence was unreal. The priests were sweating bullets, worried he'd pick up that nasty habit from him. Now the main character understood she totally misread the master's personality. Eden III vowed he wouldn't hold anything that happened in the past against her. At the end of the day, greed's just part of being human. Everyone's way too casual about their goals, just like the prophecy warned. Now the main character realized that the high priest already knew everything. Eden III smiled warmly and said honestly how grateful he was for her help. She'd managed to lift the crippling guilt that had been blinding him since he took over as high priest. So Eden III decided to let go of past regrets and move on. He reached out to the main character and told her she'd saved him, and the guy honestly didn't give a damn how it got done. The main girl froze like, wait, what do you mean I saved you? Just one wish in exchange for saving him? That didn't seem like a fair deal to the high priest. If the girl ever needed his help, he'd move heaven and earth to give it to her. The main girl thought about it and realized, hey, that actually sounds pretty good. Miena was like, what about a different kind of relationship where we could help each other out? The high priest froze, totally shocked when she suggested they become friends. The girl snapped back to reality, saying, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm way too young to be friends with the high priest. But the guy agreed to her offer and asked his dear friend, so what's your first request? The main girl reached into her inside pocket, ready to lay down her first demand. She was tied to the project she'd been grinding on lately. Eden III asked if the lady thought a friendly request had to be like that. The main character flashed a huge smile and asked the high priest for a hand. But a little later, Mr. Russell popped into Miena's room to check if she was all right. Time waits for no one, and the main character knew that better than anyone. She looked out the window and said in a tired voice that summer was coming soon. Before our heroes could even catch their breath, the hottest time of the year was upon them. Miena told Ruth to sit tight and try not to fall into the water today. The lady never used to feel the summer heat because she always had the chills, but things were different now. This summer was a scorcher, so Miena was thinking about heading to the snowy mountains. Ruth's face just dropped the second he realized it was summer outside. He told Miena that he now knew knew it rains a lot during the summer. If the kid listens real close while he's in his room, he can hear the rain hitting the roof. It was a super quiet sound, but Ruth finally understood what it meant. The main character asked the boy how he was feeling about it all. He didn't know what was good or bad, so it was hard for him to say what he was thinking. If Ruth keeps bottling up all those feelings inside, they're gonna overwhelm him eventually. With a warm smile, Miena told him he could be honest with her. The little boy put his slice of watermelon down and decided to open up to his friend. He never got angry or upset, no matter what happened. But more and more, the thought was creeping in that he was trapped here for good. Ruth slept and ate well. Even if the food was the same every day, it was still damn good. Suddenly, the little dude realized he'd just said too freaking much. He immediately started apologizing to Miena because she had taught him so much. The main girl gently took his hand and told the kid he had nothing to apologize for. Ruth only needed to apologize if he actually did something wrong. Then Miena said that of the two of them, she was the only one who should be apologizing here. Lady Sidus tried to take responsibility for what was happening, but she just couldn't bring herself to do it. Ruth got closer to the girl and said with a warm smile that she hadn't done anything wrong. He reminded her that Miena herself had said not to apologize without a reason. The main girl kept visiting Ruth, and it was making him super happy. He hugged her tight and told her everything was cool. She didn't need to say stuff like that. Ruth confessed he'd been wanting to meet up with her in person a lot lately. The Dragon Lord was surprised that Miena came to him to help find some pathetic creature. She flashed a wide smile and said that only the Dragon Lord could help her. If he helped her out, she would totally focus on tracking down Yggdrasil. He told her not to sweat it and take her time, because he was patient enough. But Miena knew if her condition got worse, she'd probably never find Yggdrasil. The guy frowned and asked if the girl really didn't trust his promise to save her. The main girl stammered that it wasn't that she didn't trust him exactly. He said the girl's got a silver tongue, and Miena joked that it's kind of her thing. She put on the puppy dog eyes and asked if he'd help her out, but got a hard no right away. The main character was like, "Seriously, is it that big of a deal to grant her one wish?" The dragon dude asked if Lady Sidus really thought wish magic was just that easy. This kind of magic needs serious prep work, otherwise things could get pretty messed up. Miena wondered who could dig up some dirt on Root, since Justin was tied up with that offshore bank thing. Suddenly, it hit the main character like a lightning bolt, cause she just came up with an idea. The ladies were absolutely thrilled when they got an invite to tea from Lady Sidus. Miena told her guests she was so glad they could make it to her little get-together. There's no better way to get info than inviting a bunch of gossipy young ladies over for tea. Out of nowhere, one of the ladies asks Miena if she's engaged to Duke Everdine. The main character chokes on her tea, and a worried maid rushes over to help her. She's completely lost as to why these ladies would even think such a thing. Miena's dying to know what the heck is going on here. But the ladies just squeal that the whole upper crust already knows about their engagement. Who would have guessed that the sponsor and his protege would end up like that? The girls start begging Miena to tell them what her relationship with Duke Justin is like. Suddenly, from the other side of the table, one of the ladies who wasn't in on the conversation coughs loudly. Lady Eckhart shyly mentions that the tea is especially delicious. Claire wasn't exactly memorable, so the main character didn't immediately recognize her. Miena figured the young Duke was just trying to keep her entertained, since she doesn't get out much. The other ladies were like, "If I were the young Duke, I'd be all over taking care of you, girl." Then one of the Blue Bloods piped up, asking if everyone had heard the latest gossip. Apparently, it's about the Mount family. They haven't let their daughter out since her debut ball. Rumor has it, they're keeping her locked up until they can snag her a sweet deal with some noble. It was giving Ruth vibes, and Miena was hoping she could find some kind of angle there. The whole time, though, our girl could feel someone's eyes burning into her. When she clocked Lady Eckhart acting weird, the kid froze, realizing what was up. By late evening, all the guests cleared out, and Miena felt like she'd just survived a kindergarten field trip. Suddenly, out of nowhere, she heard Lady Eckhart calling her name. Miena politely mentioned how grateful she was that she accepted her invitation for tea. The main character was super surprised when Claire asked if she believed in past lives. She had absolutely no clue why the girl was suddenly asking about previous existences. Lady Eckhart immediately caught herself and said that wasn't what she meant at all. She bowed right then and there and dashed away from Lady Sidus. The main character didn't have a chance to do anything, let alone figure out what that was all about. That's why Miena decided to peek into Lady Eckhart's dreams a little to find some answers. Opening one of the doors, the main character immediately greeted Ruth. She was running late today, so she was really worried she wouldn't get to say hi to the kid. Miena said she had another place to check out, but promised she'd be back soon. She told the little dude to go hang out in the mountains for a bit. Ruth, grinning like a fool, promised Miena he'd be waiting for her. The main girl smiled back warmly and said again she'd be back soon. She noticed to herself that Ruth was getting cuter every time she saw him. It was a good change, 'cause the kid was nothing like he was when they first met. The main character was super surprised to learn the young ladies and Ruth's dreams were right next to each other, especially since there weren't any other gates around, which got Miena thinking. She immediately started wondering if they were completely alone. Was it just a bad spot, or was it something about the reality's properties? Usually, dreams were blurry in some way, but everything here was crystal clear. Suddenly, the main character heard crying and a voice trembling with terror. She peeked through a crack and heard someone trying to calm someone else down, saying everything would be okay. The main character immediately spotted some kids being comforted by some girl. She promised the kids she'd get them out of there and they'd leave together. All of a sudden, another person showed up in the room and announced it was a full moon tonight. The candlelight flickered across the face of some woman who was smirking slyly. She pointed a finger at the girl and announced that she was the one who'd do the trick tonight. The woman, still grinning, told Catherine to come to her right away. The main character guessed that this woman in her dream might be Madame Oferta. Mr. Russell asked, looking confused, if that was why the girl had been causing such a ruckus all morning. Miena said the dream was super vivid, and the face seemed familiar, so she flipped through some old papers. But the thing is, our girl totally remembered she promised to hang with Ruth. So, Lady Sidus is checking out a monthly magazine, and bam, she finds an article from 15 years back. Helma Ferda gifted the madam a painting, but kicked the bucket right after the wedding, and she inherited everything. But the madam never remarried and started helping out orphans, so the grumbling died down pretty quick. Miena's thinking, what's the connection here? 'Cause she saw Lady Eckhart locking up kids in her dream. Siegfried figures the kid just made it all up, so it might not even be real. Maybe. But Claire's reaction was way too similar to Ruth's. That's why our lead decided to check things out. She wasn't planning on anything crazy. Since they're already at the house, they'll just take a look at the layout for today. The main character froze, totally caught off guard when Mr. Russell bolted out of his chair. Miena spun around and called out to the guy, all confused, but he'd already disappeared around the corner of the house. She took off after him, yelling, all ticked off, saying Sir Russell couldn't just leave her hanging like that. The main character clammed up right away when she figured out what was up with the guy's behavior. He was holding a little girl, and he said this kid had been lurking around the whole time. The guy was sure she was a threat, but Miena wasn't buying it, not even a little. The main character immediately told him to put the kid down because she knew her. Lady Claire Eckhart pulled back her hood and said hello to Lady Sidus. The guy raised an eyebrow, totally clueless, and asked who she was, but the main character just smiled and told Lady Eckhart she was happy to see her again. Russell immediately set the girl down and started apologizing for what he'd done. He tried to explain that the girl just had this weird vibe about her, which is why he reacted like that. That aura Miena glimpsed earlier wasn't actually directed at them. The main character turned around and realized the aura was focused on that mansion. That building was probably Madame Ofert's place. Miena wondered what Lady Eckhart was doing here all alone, without an escort. Suddenly, she noticed there wasn't even a mark on the hand Sir Russell had grabbed, but our heroine was sure the guy had grabbed the girl pretty roughly. Lady Eckhart asked what Lady Sidus was doing in a place like this. Miena confidently stated that she'd obviously come to meet with Madame Oferte. She said she's starting a charity project and needed to ask the Madame some questions. The main character added that Duke Everdine's tied up, so she can't ask him for help. Then Miena asked what the lady was doing in a place like this all alone. Claire immediately got nervous and said her mansion's just up the road, so she usually doesn't bother with an escort. The main character remembered perfectly that in her dream, the Ladies' Gate and Ruth's were right next to each other. She immediately figured Ruth must have some connection to that mansion. Miena immediately asked if the question was bothering Lady Eckhart. Claire stated confidently that she had business she absolutely had to take care of at the Madame's mansion. There was something unusual about young Lady Eckhart from the first time they met. Miena couldn't figure out if the lady had some hidden agenda when she started getting close to her. The main girl had no freaking clue what this kid could have possibly found out about her, but she asked if it had anything to do with what Lady Eckhart couldn't tell her last time. Miena suggested they head to the mansion together and flashed a rolled-up piece of paper. This thing was supposed to get them in, no questions asked, even without an appointment. It was a letter of recommendation Justin sent that morning, along with Madame Oferta's address, and the young Duke made it clear in the letter that he definitely expected an explanation. The main girl was blown away by the size of the mansion. She only had 3 people in her house. Mr. Russell was totally freaked out by what the girl was saying and couldn't make heads or tails of it. The butler said with a warm smile that the lady had been living alone since her husband passed. Miena didn't remember this guy at all from her dream. The server asked if the lady had a tea preference, and she said she liked sweet drinks. The butler said he'd whip something up right away and then left the room. Mr. Russell was stunned again as Miena started gushing excitedly. She whispered that she had to act like a cute little kid to lower their guard. Miena didn't know all of Lady Eckhart's situation, but since she'd come to Madame, the game was on. Even for a small game, you need a card to play, and you can't just show it off. Right now, Claire Eckhart was holding the card they had in their hand. The main character took the girl's hand and told the lady not to be shy. There was no need to worry either, because they had to win, no matter what. And after they won, Lady Eckhart had better explain things to Miena. A woman walked in, apologizing for keeping such a VIP waiting because of an unexpected visit. The smile instantly vanished from our lead's face as she sized up the mansion's owner. Madame Oferta announced it was a true honor to meet the legendary lady of the rumors. Our girl waved her hand, casually stating her name was Miena, and she was from House Sidus. She'd only seen portraits, but said it was a privilege to meet Madame in person. Miena lied, saying the young lady beside her was from Baron Eckhart's family, apprenticed to Duchess Everdine. Madame replied that, just as the rumors said, the young Duke clearly valued the lady very much. Our lead noticed Claire had a seriously intense stare going on. Then she glanced at the guy standing behind Madame Oferta. Looking at his face, the young girl realized he looked pretty damn familiar. Out of nowhere, Miena started hacking up a lung and apologized for not feeling well. The woman waved it off, asking what exactly brought the lady all the way out here. Miena confessed she wanted some advice from her, but felt awkward talking with others around. Right away, the madam told Jack to show the 2 guests around and keep them busy. But Mr. Russell butted in, saying Lady Sidus and the madam shouldn't be left alone. But the main character just gave him a look that said, "Do as you're told," and suggested he check out the mansion. This time, the guy got the message, and he and Lady Eckhart cleared out of the room. The woman asked what kind of advice the lady needed that she had to clear the room. Madame Oferta gave a sly smirk and said she was all ears. The main character was convinced Madame Oferta was plotting something with the kids. If Miena's hunch was right, she needed to make sure Madame Oferta noticed her. The butler set down the tea and wished the ladies a pleasant visit. The woman suggested they get straight down to business. Miena, with feigned awkwardness, explained how her family was ruined because of her. In that situation, the young Duke suddenly swooped in to help, which was so noble of him. So she figured she'd try her hand at charity too, even if it's just a little bit. The madam wondered if it wouldn't be better to just ask the Everdine family for help directly. Miena replied that what she had in mind was a bit different from what the Duke was doing. Our girl added that she really wanted to help kids who ended up in the same boat as she did. She kept thinking about how much shady stuff you could get away with locking kids up. If they were snatching people during the new moon, it had to be for some kind of magic ritual. Like, Maybe they were experimenting with the innate magical power that people are born with. Miena told the madame that her body just couldn't handle the magical power inside her. That's why the main character couldn't be transferred to someone else. Seeing the look on the woman's face, Miena knew right away she'd taken the bait. The madame asked if that meant her body's unique condition was completely healed now. The main character scratched the back of her head and said that wasn't exactly the case. The woman said she was just helping kids who needed it. It was a little different from what the madame was doing, but she couldn't refuse Lady Sidus now. She promised she'd help the girl in any way she could. The woman handed the girl a letter, saying she'd be escorted there even without the Duke of Everdine's recommendation. The main character gasped, asking if she could really accept it. Madame figured the lady wanted to keep their meeting secret from young Duke Everdine. The contents of this invitation are invisible to others, so it won't fall into the wrong hands. Then, the woman smiled and asked if she should order the guests to be escorted back. The main character agreed, adding that it was time for her to leave. Mr. Russell confessed that he thought he'd be waiting forever. Miena looked at Madame Oferta and thanked her. On the way home, the man mentioned there were so many people in the mansion. It was almost impossible to move around. He explained he excused himself to the restroom and scouted the estate a bit, but didn't realize how many people were there. Out of nowhere, Lady Eckhart grabbed Miena's hand and begged her to stop all this, especially since the lady's health is so fragile, and she has everything she could ever want. Miena, confused, said that you shouldn't just say something like that for no reason. Claire looked down and confessed that this guy is seriously dangerous. The main character stared at the girl, totally lost, and asked her to explain why. The thing is, in her past life, Claire was a victim of this woman's experiments. Miena was seriously shocked that Lady Eckhart just laid it all out like that. Claire wasn't sure if it was the effects of the experiment messing with her head, or if it was just the trauma, something she could never forget, you know? But she remembered absolutely everything that happened to her back then. Claire figured that might be why she can sense other people's magic and power. She confessed she's been thinking Lady Sidus might remember her past life too. Running into someone similar in another world was already a happy and welcome surprise. That's why the main character answered honestly, saying she totally gets it. Claire begged the lady not to get involved in this whole thing anymore. Miena's gonna get hurt for sure, cause that guy will stop at nothing now. The main character totally understood the fear and desperation in the girl's words. She's trying to push Miena away, even with her own social standing. Lady Sidus said everything's fine, but she wasn't about to back down. Besides, Miena's already got that woman wrapped around her finger, which is actually pretty great. Mr. Russell blurted out that he understood exactly what Lady Sidus was implying. If the crime happened with witnesses, there's no way to deny it now. And breaking into the mansion for no reason is already a crime, so we gotta do this quietly. The guy clenched his fist and said that he had a bad feeling about all this. The main character thought to herself, just believe me, just this once. She flashed a wide smile and announced that she had everything under control. Mr. Russell was taken aback by the idea and asked if the lady actually wanted to get caught on purpose. The main character gave a mysterious smirk, anticipating